The evidence seems to indicate that you're watching Dolly Vision.
Chopping up Dolly Vision's dreaming real. True crime scene makes me feel so unreal. YouTube madness, like, share, subscribe. Jack's on fire, burning the world's fire. Where's the baby missing shadows crawl? People whisper footsteps down the hall. Fingerprints of the dead, cold as stone. He's got the scoop, there's the round known. Dolly Vision headlines, King the Beat. Truth unravels, crackling through the heat. Lost soul shouting, echoes in the night. Rock the truth while live on air light. Chopping up Dolly Vision's dreaming real. True crime scene makes me feel so unreal. YouTube madness, like, share, subscribe. Jack's on fire, burning the world's fire. Where's the baby missing shadows crawl? People whisper footsteps down the hall. Fingerprints of the dead, cold as stone. He's got the scoop, there's the round known. Dolly Vision headlines, King the Beat. Truth unravels, crackling through the heat. Lost souls shouting, echoes in the night. Rock the truth while live on air light.
What is up, my beautiful people? It is Dolly back in the house again today. It is good to see so many of you jumping in the chat room. Don't forget to leave your DNA on that like button just in case the doomsday mom gets a hold of you or Karen Reed backs over you at 28 miles an hour. We're going to need your DNA on file. PJ Vision, thank you for being a member, says love your face. For 2 years, PJ has been putting up with my ugly ass. Okay, that's a good long amount of time. That is a good long amount of time. Now, of course, if you're brand new here and you're just tuning in for the first time, make sure you sub up the channel and ring that bell for notifications. As the title says, we're going to be talking a little bit about Karen Reed tonight, Lori Vallow, Daybell. You may know her as the Doomsday Mother, okay? And of course, Richard Allen, also known as the Delphi Killer, right? Or is he? Or is he? That is my question for some of you guys tonight. Well, anyway, we're going to start off with good old Karen Reed. Does anybody know who Karen Reed is? Raise your hand if you do. All right, just raise your hand. She is the woman that allegedly backed over her police officer boyfriend at 28 miles an hour. Okay, 28 miles an hour. She ran over John O'Keefe in reverse in a Lexus SUV on a cold, snowy night. And then from there, she just told every lie that she could humanly tell. Anybody know who this lady is? I think some of y'all know, right? I think some of y'all know. And then, you know, Karen Reed, she went to trial and there was a mistrial, a hung jury. They couldn't decide if Karen Reed was guilty or not, right? It was a lot of what I consider conspiracy theories thrown out there that law enforcement had something to do with covering up the death of former police officer. Well, he was a police officer at the time, John O'Keefe. Okay. Now, Karen Reed was his girlfriend, not the best girlfriend in the world. She was pretty much trying to cheat on this man with his friend. A lot of people like to leave that out, you know, and forget that she is a killer, okay, or alleged killer. Well, anyway, she's done an interview just recently with Vanity Fair. I don't know why people treat this lady like she's a rock star. I believe she should get treated just like any other criminal that sleeps with her lawyer. Okay, allegedly. But let me give these warnings before we get all into this. Dolly Vision is for entertainment purposes only. We talk news, rumors, gossip, speculation, theories, mixed with a little bit of comedy. So don't take nothing here as fact. Do your own damn research, people. Also, the caller's opinions are theirs and theirs alone, not to reflect on Dolly. Don't get me sued. And everybody is innocent to proven guilty in a court of law, even Karen Reed, even Lori Daybell, and of course, Richard Allen. I don't think he's guilty anyway, but everyone's proven innocent to proven guilty. And the biggest one of them all is don't try to be Dolly at home. Okay. Don't do it. It is absolutely dangerous. You can die. Okay. And I don't want to be held responsible for that. So anyway, Vanity Fair went and stayed with Karen Reed for a couple of days to get this same old lying ass story that she's always been telling. Okay. She's been telling this same old lying story forever. Did I hit him? Could I hit him? Did, all these things, making it sound like she's responsible. But then of course she wants to pay people, which are, YouTube creators, to run a narrative for her out here online that she didn't kill John O'Keefe and that John O'Keefe went into the house at this party that they were supposed to attend with other police officers. And these police officers beat John O'Keefe to death, drug him out, and left him in the front yard to die. Starting the $2 sticker train. Miss Margaret, get on the train. Dolly train, come on. Y'all get on. We got plenty of room today to get on the train. I call that the $2 challenge. Miss Margaret, the first person to start the $2 challenge. You're awesome. Thank you for being here with us. Now, did the police kill John O'Keefe, right? And this is what she paid a vlogger that goes by the name of Turtle Boy, okay? Turtle Boy. Now, we know there's only one Turtle Gang. Don't get it mixed up with Turtle Bitch, okay? There's a dude that goes out there. He goes by Turtle Bitch, but we are the Turtle Gang, not affiliated with them. Some of them people may call themselves Turtle Riders because they ride turtle dick, okay? That's why they're Turtle Riders, okay? This is what it is. It is what it is. Now, Turtle Gang, we don't ride no dick, okay? We don't do that. We're not dick riders over here. We don't kiss ass. We don't take up for murderers and killers or alleged killers, right? We make sure that, you've been found innocent before we defend your ass over here. And Karen Reed has not been found innocent. Okay. She has not been found innocent. There's a lot of evidence that points that Karen Reed did this and tried to cover it up. Now, even some of the Karen Reed simps out there, they have been changing sides. Okay. They've been kind of saying, hey, Karen lied to us. She talked about all this federal, that there's this federal. What am I looking for? That the feds were looking into all the prosecutors and things like this to bring them up on indictments, right? And she said she had all this proof and these wiretaps and all this shit, which turns out to be lies. She's never been able to come up with any of this stuff, right? And now we know we're about to move into phase 2, where they're going to retry her on the murder charges of John O'Keefe. Now, Dolly, the next big news case, court case that I'm going to be covering is the case of Karen Reed, John O'Keefe. Me and PJ are going to Boston for a little bit to set up camp and help John O'Keefe. We're going to be on his side. We done ordered our t-shirts, right? The official John O'Keefe t-shirts, blue. So we are team blue because we don't drink Kool-Aid. I had a heart attack. I can't be having all that sugar, right? I can't be having all that sugar. And these people up there in Canton, Massachusetts have definitely drank way too much Kool-Aid, and they're treating this woman like she is a rock star that literally backed over her boyfriend was cheating on him and treating the kids like shit. Okay. She didn't even like the kids. So he had 2 adopted kids. His sister died. Shortly afterwards, her husband died. And John O'Keefe, being the nice dude he is, he took the kids in as they were his own. Okay. Of course, once he gets killed, Karen Reed goes over to the house, picks up some of her stuff, and tells the kids, hey, we're never going to see each other again. Now, and then she went on a campaign of misinformation, paying people. Yeah, I'm going to take Tom some candy. Don't worry. MJ, Dolly wants some of that candy that Tom CPU has. No, Dolly got his own candy. I'm bringing my own candy, my own signs, okay? Because my sign's going to say Karen Reed guilty, and we're going to hang these all over Canton. Big banners, you name it. Me and PJ are going to do the same type of behavior that they're doing up there. The whole Free Karen Reed, the FKR movement, which I think it stands for Fuck Karen Reed, but they say it stands for Free Karen Reed. But I guess you could look at it either way, because FKR to me means fuck Karen Reed, right? To the fullest, right? Fight the power. And real justice is, these people have been up there booing the family of John O'Keefe, a fallen officer. It is absolutely disgusting and despicable behavior from a wannabe blogger, okay? A wannabe blogger, and Karen Reed conspired to harass, to intimidate witnesses in a case, okay? To harass and intimidate. That's all what it was about, booing the mother of John O'Keefe. Now listen, the mother of John O'Keefe has nothing to do with John O'Keefe being dead. So when the family comes into the courtroom, they're booing, they're screaming, and they're out there like a crazy ass mob that just been released from bingo, okay? It looks like a big ass bingo hall let out and handed out Free Karen Reed signs. To me, that's what it appears to be. It's just a cult of older people that were lonely, and they done found the cause. They're like, oh God, we got friends now. We got somebody to talk to. So they don't care what Karen Reed says or does. They could watch Karen Reed run him over, and they would still be outside the courtroom screaming, Free Karen Reed. That's how much Kool-Aid they drink. These people are absolute fucking idiots, okay? And I know this firsthand because, I jumped on an airplane. I flew to Boston, drove into Canton, talked with some of these people, and then I realized myself, they're fucking idiots, okay? Like your Tom CPUs, your Turtle Bitch Boy, and your Baby Gaps are absolutely idiots. These are people that would absolutely defend a cop killer, okay? Now, Dolly ain't, listen. I grew up in the era F the police, but I still don't want police dead. And then when they do get killed, I want justice for every single human out here that loses their life. I don't jump on bandwagons. I could get out here just as easy. Free Karen Reed, right? Go get on the news, go be in their documentaries like all these little suck-ups are trying to do by defending a cop killer. But hell no, we stand for real justice here at Dolly Vision. We stand on the side of what is right and what is wrong. Okay? Now, booing their family and treating this family like shit, Paul O'Keefe and stuff like that, to me is absolutely disgusting. I guess Dolly, what did that say? Hold on. Now, I know some people are going to have mixed feelings about the Karen Reed things because some people believe she's innocent. And listen, you're entitled to believe that, right? You're entitled to believe that. You can have your opinion here. Now, me, I think that's a stupid ass opinion. That's just my opinion, right? That's just my opinion. So, like I said, me and PJ are going to be in Boston. We're going to Boston for this trial, but we're going to be rocking the blue. We're going to stand on the side of justice to back John O'Keefe, Paul O'Keefe, in the O'Keefe family. Now, when we hold a sign that says justice for John O'Keefe, that really means justice for John O'Keefe. When they hold a sign, old Team Pink, all right, when they hold a sign that says justice for John O'Keefe, that is like spitting in the face of John O'Keefe. That's how I look at it. All right. This lady is 100% guilty. And you know, she is going to be convicted this time. For all you simps out there, you know, turtle boy dick riders and believe this stuff, she will be convicted. Dolly gives you his word, right? You know, I'm psychic. Okay. Y'all know Dolly's psychic. My psychic abilities, my spidery senses are telling me that she's going to be convicted. And John O'Keefe is going to have real support this time. People are going to be out there rocking the blue, and the numbers are going to be in just as many numbers as Karen Reed supporters this time around. Okay. So if you a Dolly fan, a Dolly supporter, and you're in that area, come out and rock with me. Bring your blue, because we're going to be out there supporting John O'Keefe. Okay. Not some murderer that backed over him at 20 miles an hour. You know, my whole thing like this is this bougie ass woman that thinks she's a rock star. Okay. Waving and all happy and smiling that she killed somebody, you know, sleeping with her lawyer, then lost her house. You know, I don't get it. It's just a big, she thinks she's something she's not. And all these people that are out there supporting her, if they were on fire, Karen Reed wouldn't piss on you. Okay. She thinks she's better than you. And here's the whole thing. You can buy a raffle ticket right now to go have dinner with a cop killer. Okay. If you win, you can go have dinner with her and her lawyer. Right. And you can go sit down and you can have a meal. But listen, don't drink with her and stand behind her vehicle. Don't stand behind the vehicle, because your ass might get mowed over. Okay. Now, would all these people that are supporting her, would they stand behind her car after she's had 9 vodkas and sodas? Because that's what she had that night she was driving. And she says, well, I didn't feel impaired. Now, is there anybody here that can drink 9 vodkas and sodas and not be impaired? I know Dolly can't. I'm running over all of Canton, right? I'm running over Canton. I'm running over people in Boston. I'm running over people till they get me out the car, right? 9 vodkas and soda, right? I usually drink vodka and cranberry myself, but she drinks vodka and soda, seems to be her drink of choice. I'm running over everybody. Okay. Don't get in front of my car. Don't get behind my car. Don't get near the vehicle I'm in. Right. I can do 4. LOL. I might be able to do 2 and be safe. 3, I'm running you over. 4, I'm crashing into your car. 5, I'm driving the car through your house. Right. 6, I'm running you over while you're asleep in bed. Okay. And the car's gonna be parked in your backyard when you wake up. I might be dead at 9 vodkas and sodas. Okay. 9 of them bitches might kill me. I don't know how she was driving at all. Right. Especially in the damn snow. But I'm definitely team blue. All right. If y'all had any questions what team Dolly was on, I am definitely team blue in this. And we're going to be up there doing our best we can to make sure this lady is found guilty as shit. Okay. Not just guilty, but guilty as hell. And she spends the next, let's just say 40 years in prison next to Leilani Simon, next to damn Lori Vallow, right? We want to make sure of that, right? We want real justice for John O'Keefe. We want to laugh at all the people that booed John O'Keefe's mother. Okay. So listen, when they find her guilty, you can believe Dolly's going to walk up onto the steps of court and laugh in your face. Okay. And be like, I told you so. I told you so. Now, they got a different prosecutor this time, which was the former defense attorney for Whitey Bulger. So they ain't got a dumbass like Lowley, right, that they had last time. They brought in some brains. Okay. They brought in some brains this time. And I think he's going to shoot down all that conspiracy shit, because last time it felt like to me that everybody was on trial but Karen Reed. And I'm telling you, it's not going to go that way this time. Usually 95% of the time when you're tried a second time, you are convicted. All right. The numbers don't lie. Karen Reed is going down. Now, she can bang all the high profile lawyers she wants, but she's still going to be fine. She better start sleeping with the jury, right? She better start sleeping with the jury is what she better do, because this time I believe that it ain't going to be a hung jury. It's going to be, you are done. Lock her up, send her to prison. And you know, in the beginning of this, when she was first arrested and she was going up for bond, she said this stuff was a tragic accident, just a tragic accident, which I truly believe that was true. It was just a tragic accident. I don't know if she purposely ran over John O'Keefe, but she didn't even wait for this man to get in the ground, and she was trying to sleep with his friend, okay, which is wow. Okay, just absolutely wow. Nina has just jumped on the Dolly train. Thank you. Come on aboard, girl. Get you a nice seat. Sleep with the jury. She better do something, right? Because 95% of the time when you are retried in a hung jury, you are convicted. We talked about the Menendez brothers, right? Remember them guys? They were tried the first time. It ended in a hung jury. They were tried a second time in less than 2 hours. They were convicted and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. That's what I mean by 95% of the time when they try you the second time, your ass is done. Okay. And all these simps, they know she's done. They knew when they brought in Whitey Bulger's lawyer that it was a wrap, right? They knew it was a wrap because they said, okay, well, they went out and got them a high profile lawyer. Well, we're going to go out and get us a high profile prosecutor. So now they're trying to even the playing field, and the O'Keefes are trying to do the same thing. They want people to show up in their blue. They want people to be out there to support John O'Keefe. They never asked for that before. So when you seen it, all you seen was the people that supported Karen Reed, because the O'Keefe family wasn't asking people to come out and support them. Now they are. Okay, so when you look out there now, you're going to see a whole street of blue and you're going to see a whole street of pink. The support is going to be even across. It'd probably be more if you had a common sense. Rose, get on the train. Come on. If you had good common sense, you would be supporting John O'Keefe, not a alleged killer. Okay. Karen, we love you, Karen. We love you. Can you sign this for me? Right. Taking pictures like she's a celebrity. Listen, you're not a celebrity, lady. You're not shit. You're a bougie ass lady that thinks you above everybody, and you're not. Okay, I just got a message that came in. Let me read what this says. Okay, that wasn't important. That was the dude with a little kid that is missing in Hendersonville, Tennessee. We don't cover that case anymore because there's a bunch of idiots, right, that want to sue people and drag people into court and things like that. So we don't cover that anymore. But like I said, me and PJ are going to be up there, and there's a way if PJ could post a link to get you a John O'Keefe shirt, the official shirt for John O'Keefe. This is a great way to support the family. So when you're watching me and PJ up there in our blue, you can also rock the blue, and it has John O'Keefe's badge number on the back. Okay. This is what these people that say they support John O'Keefe, right? They say they support John O'Keefe, but they boo the family of John O'Keefe. Make that shit make sense. How can you support this man and boo his mama to the face, right? Talking about fuck his mama. You know, the whole turtle bitch dude, he is a total fucking clown, right? He is a disgusting human being. I don't know how anybody could support this dude. You know, and he's selling these free Karen Reed shirts. Does that go to help John O'Keefe's family? Did that money go to help bury John O'Keefe? Did it go for anything for John O'Keefe? No, it just went into his pocket. Okay, so he's profiting off of somebody else's tragedy, another family's tragedy. So a great way to support the O'Keefes is to pick up one of these blue shirts that have John O'Keefe's badge number across the back. Okay. That's the official from their family merchandise. All right. That's where we ordered from. That's where we got our shirts. We could have just wore blue shirts, but we wanted to be able to help the O'Keefe family. So that's what we did. So we'll take calls on this whole Karen Reed stuff in just a few minutes, and you can tell me if you think she's guilty or not. Now we're going to, I'm going to go through these 3 cases and then we will take phone calls. I'll open up the phone lines for you guys. So make sure you jump on the Dolly train today, right? Keep Dolly alive. So anyway, Lori Vallow Daybell, all right, AKA the Doomsday Mom. I feel bad for John O'Keefe and his family. Karen is a murderer, in my opinion. I agree with you 100%, short legs. I agree with you. And she's guilty. I agree. I agree with all you guys that think she's guilty. Now, if you think she's innocent, okay, Jack says, hit that like. I'm at the bar looking for Kool-Aid. All right, Kool-Aid is terrible. Just don't drink that Boston Kool-Aid, okay? They put a lot of sugar in that. It'll rot your teeth out. Well, it'll rot your brain out, apparently, okay? It'll skip your teeth and go right to rotting your brain out because there's a lot of people here that don't have good common sense. Now, I mean, I understand there's police corruption and some police are bad, but they act like the police force is bad, the fire department's bad, the ambulance people are bad, the judges are bad. Everybody's bad, right? But Karen Reed. Karen Reed's great. She couldn't do no wrong if she ran down the whole police force in reverse at 28 miles an hour. All right. She can't do no wrong. Now, Lori Vallow, the Doomsday Mother, right? Some people call her the cult mom, thought the end of the world was coming, thought her kids were demons. All right. That they were little ass demons and they needed to die. Okay. Can't make this stuff up. You can't make it up. Well, she has been convicted. She has been sentenced to life in prison, but she has some more court dates coming up. And she basically wants to represent herself. Okay. Now, when I look at Lori Vallow, she reminds me of the chick from, Devil's Rejects, House of 1,000 Corpses, Sherry Moon Zombie. I don't know why. Does anybody know who Sherry Moon Zombie is? It's Rob Zombie's wife. Okay. She reminds me so much of Sherry Moon Zombie that it is unreal. Okay. Lori Vallow is a nutbag. Okay. Well, yeah, she's a little bit cuckoo for damn Cocoa Puffs. That is for sure. Okay. She's definitely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So she wants to represent herself in court. So the court's like, oh, hell no. She's crazy. So now they're sending Lori Vallow for a mental evaluation. Now, anybody that believes their kids are demons and they got to die and then killed all these people, or took part in the conspiracy to kill or unalive her children is crazy, right? Living dead girl. There you go. Would have to be crazy, but does she know right from wrong? Is she able to stand? Well, this ain't even determine if she can stand trial. She's already been determined that she can stand trial. This is just to determine if they can let her represent herself or not, right? Because she wants to turn this into, I guess, a circus, and get out here and push her cult beliefs onto the masses. That's pretty much is what it's come down to. And I just want to play a little bit from the, when all this capped off. So yeah, if you don't know the Lori Daybell story, you'll get a little education here.
Where the kids are. That's all I want to know.
She said, you're not Charles. I don't know who you are, what you did with Charles, but I can murder you now.
We're gathering together as saints, as brothers and sisters, and preparing for the second coming of Christ.
She needs some serious help. I want her to get help.
Had something that you knew was the right thing to do, but it turns out that later on it was a felony. I turned around and he hit me in the back of the head with a bat. I went to my room and got my gun.
How long have you lived here?
Like 3 weeks. Like, hi neighbor, sorry.
We did respond to an unattended death.
Basically murdered her husband, murdered the kid.
Deceased.
A former friend of Lori Vallow Daybell tells the jury that Lori threatened to kill her.
Where are your kids?
I didn't know that, Hug Diller.
No comment? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say?
Every minute of every day where Lori's not saying something, it's a slap in the face.
And then, they went to Hawaii while the kids were missing.
He fought coming into this world. He was 30 weeks old. I don't believe it.
One day, you will murder. One day.
Stop worrying, Mom.
We are fine.
She made choices, horrible choices. She's going to have a miserable life.
So I just wanted to refresh everybody just in case you didn't know the Doomsday Mother story. Okay, I'm sure most of you are true crime heads and y'all know this story. But this lady was absolutely nuts. And listen, you know how they say there's somebody out there for everybody? Her old man was just as crazy, the guy she met, right? These are people that are doomsday preppers. They think the end of the world is coming, and they believe that the children were demons, that these demons could take people's bodies and be inside those people, that they were just a shell, but there was demons inside. You heard of it, but never watched it. Oh, it's a crazy one.
Lori Vallow Daybell, a mother accused of orchestrating the murders of her 2 children, was motivated, according to prosecutors, by religion, love, and her attraction to a self-described doomsday prophet named Chad Daybell. This is Victim to Verdict.
Victim to Verdict.
Rexburg, Idaho, surrounded by the Teton and Sawtooth Mountains, sits 90 minutes from the western entrance of Yellowstone National Park. The people living in this section of eastern Idaho say they're closer than most, in part because nearly everyone living here is Mormon.
It's probably the area. We're all LDS, the majority of us, and I think that's probably something that draws us all together.
So in November of 2019, when news that 2 children from a local Mormon family were missing, it immediately grabbed people's attention. Nate Sunderland is the managing editor of the East Idaho News.
People were interested in the story right from the beginning. We don't normally get missing kids news releases that are like this. And it just continued to get bigger and bigger.
16-year-old Tylee Ryan and her little brother, 7-year-old JJ Vallow. Their smiles, now on a missing poster, hadn't been seen in weeks. And their mother, Lori Vallow, apparently wasn't cooperating with police.
Typically when a missing person is reported, it's the parents that call us. And so when we posted this story, I think people immediately knew that something was fishy.
Eventually, the FBI was brought in to help, and the story started to spread far beyond eastern Idaho.
You have 2 children who had vanished, and their mother, beautiful blonde Lori Vallow Daybell, doesn't seem interested in finding her own children. Immediately, the nation was captivated by this story.
JJ's grandparents, Larry and Kay Woodcock, were the first to sound the alarm. The Woodcocks had a special relationship with JJ.
JJ was in neonatal ICU, NICU, because he was born 2 pounds and 14 ounces, and he was 10 weeks premature. He was
Did you say free, Lori, Mike? You want to free everybody.
Just instant fall in love. That's what you do with grandkids. You just fall in love immediately.
JJ was adopted by Charles and Lori Vallow when he was 1. But before that, he lived with his grandparents, Kay and Larry.
He's autistic, so there's, they have issues.
Charles and Lori got him and had him in the special schools. His intelligence level was unbelievable.
Even though JJ went to live with Charles and Lori, the Woodcocks, Kay and Larry, were still a major part of JJ's life. The 3 of them would often talk on the telephone and FaceTime.
Charles Vallow died in July of 2019. After he passed, the Woodcocks and Lori had a falling out. But Larry and Kay still desperately wanted to see or at least talk to JJ. But Lori had essentially cut off communication.
I was emailing her and begging her, please, we will fly to Arizona. We will fly to wherever you are. Give us an hour with him.
The fallout between Lori and the Woodcocks was partially over money, $1 million. Before Charles Vallow died, he switched the beneficiary to his life insurance policy from Lori to his sister Kay.
I didn't ask for that. He did it because he knew we were going to end up with JJ. Yeah. Or so he thought.
After Charles died, Lori essentially cuts out Larry and Kay from JJ's life. And remember, this little boy means the world to the Woodcocks. Eventually, they become so frustrated that they contact the Chandler, Arizona Police Department.
That call from Larry and Kay Woodcock would set off what would become a months-long search for JJ and his sister Tylee. Police tracked down the children's mother, Lori, in Rexburg, Idaho, where she'd been living for nearly 3 months. There was no sign of JJ or Tylee, but Lori wasn't living alone. Her brother Alex had also moved to Rexburg at the same time and was renting a unit in the same complex. And in the apartment next door to Lori, her niece, Melanie Boudreau, who had come to Rexburg along with Alex and Lori, leaving her children behind in Arizona.
Lori, Lieutenant Vallow, Police Department, how are you? You got a minute?
This is a recording of the first and only interaction between Lori and police, talking about the whereabouts of her children.
Are y'all alone, or is that help?
My brother's here.
So JJ would be where?
He's in Arizona.
Who's he with in Arizona?
He's with one of my friends in Arizona.
Lori would tell police that JJ was with a woman named Melanie Gibb, and his sister Tylee was off at college. Then she started to ramble.
It is very weird. I've had to move around a lot. One of my brothers is trying to kill me. Not the brother that lives here, obviously. He's kind of my protector.
She even brought up Kay Woodcock and the $1 million.
What happened was my husband, who we were married for 15 years and had raised all these 5 kids together, switched his life insurance policy to her, right? To his sister, who got $1 million when he died, and we got nothing. For me to raise JJ, and all the kids got nothing, and everybody got nothing.
That day, police also had a strange interaction with Lori's new husband, Chad Daybell, who at first claimed he didn't know Lori's phone number.
They found
it
the kids
was
in his
obvious that
yard,
something
buried.
was wrong. So the next day, police returned with a search warrant, but Lori and her new husband, Chad, were gone.
There was food in the refrigerator, food in the pantry. Everything had been taken off the hangers, and there was no clothes in the dresser drawers.
Chad and Lori are gone, and it's clear that they left in a hurry. So for detectives, there's a new level of urgency for this matter, but they had no idea how twisted this case was about to become.
Coming up, Lori tracked down in Hawaii.
Where are your kids?
No comment.
No comment? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say?
Plus, Lori's new husband, Chad Daybell.
Living on the edge of heaven, where I tell more about my 2 near-death experiences and how that prompted me to write my novels.
And frustration grows.
But tell us where the kids are.
PJ is shipping soap and candles.
Y'all know that I love you.
3 days.
I want you home more than I want to breathe.
By the first week of December 2019, just days after the unsuccessful welfare check on 7-year-old JJ Vallow, an all-out search was underway for both JJ and his older sister Tylee Ryan. The children's mother, Lori Vallow, who told police that JJ was in Arizona and Tylee was in college, had vanished, along with her new husband, Chad Daybell.
We attempted several times to get a hold of Lori, and her cell phone was shut off. We attempted to get a hold of Chad and never gotten any return phone calls. And in fact, they retained an attorney and refused to answer any questions.
Investigators quickly determined that Tylee was never enrolled in college, and Lori's Arizona friend, Melanie Gibb, who originally lied to police, she confessed, saying she never had JJ. She was only covering for her friend Lori.
She told me that the police had been there asking for JJ, and that she told the police that I had JJ, that I was at a movie called Frozen.
Weeks would go by with no significant leads, and by early January, concern for the children's safety was growing. Larry and Kay Woodcock, JJ's grandparents, were doing everything they could to keep the story alive.
is in the middle of
For God's sake, please, please step up. These are beautiful young children. We want them back.
This is Colby Ryan, Lori Vallow's oldest son and Tylee Ryan's half-brother. Unable to get a hold of his mother, he posted an emotional plea to Lori on YouTube.
I'm your son. I would never want anything to happen to you,
And I would never want anything to happen to Tylee and JJ ever. I know you know the right thing to do is. And I know that you have a good heart, so I know that it's time to do the right thing.
Lori Vallow is on her 5th marriage. Her 3rd marriage to Joseph Ryan, Tylee's father, ended in 2004. Joseph Ryan died in 2018 of an apparent heart attack. Lori's 4th husband, Charles Vallow, was a stabilizing force. Married for 15 years, Lori and Charles adopted JJ together and helped raise Tylee and Colby. Kay Woodcock is Charles Vallow's sister.
So it was just a family unit, and we were part of the unit, and we loved each other.
If somebody 2 years ago would have said, this is what's going to happen with Lori, I would have never believed it. Kay would have never believed it.
As the search for the kids and Lori and Chad continued in mid-January, Nate Sunderland, managing editor of the East Idaho News, says they started getting a few tips that Lori and Chad might be in Hawaii, a place Lori was very familiar with. She and Charles lived on the island of Kauai for a few years with JJ and Tylee.
The police were going to go there, and they were going to try to either make an arrest or try to force the issue of coming back to eastern Idaho. We were able to go.
Did you do something to your children? Are your children still alive? That's a simple question. I've got 3 kids of my own. I can tell you every minute where my kids are at. Where are your children?
The video of Nate Eaton with East Idaho News questioning Chad and Lori immediately went viral, and it infuriated everyone who watched it, because here's this mother who just didn't seem to care about where her children were.
Listen, just tell people what's happening. There's people around the country praying for your children, praying for you guys. Why don't you give us answers?
That's great.
That's great. That's great that they're praying for you, praying for your kids. What? You have nothing to say?
With Lori and Chad now located in Hawaii, prosecutors back in Idaho came up with a plan to bring Lori back by filing a child protection order.
It instructed her to bring her minor children to the Rexburg Police Department or the Department of Health and Welfare within 5 days of being served.
And there's body camera video of Lori being served with that order. She and Chad are sitting outside, laying next to the swimming pool. Do you need something?
Any questions? Do you have any questions for that?
Lori's in her bikini. Chad has his shirt off. They sure don't look like two people worried about missing children. And the book sitting next to Lori is called Visions of Glory, and it's about the end of the world.
A few weeks later, with still no sign of Tylee and JJ, Lori Vallow was taken into custody by Hawaiian police.
Was transported here to the Kauai Police Department headquarters and booked into our cell block, where she stayed until she got taken to her court appearance earlier this morning.
First of all, Ms. Vallow, do you understand that a demand has been made for your surrender by the state of Idaho?
Yes. Lori's first court appearance in Hawaii was short. The judge set her bail for $5 million, and it was in front of a full courtroom. Sitting there in the second row in a white shirt, blue tie, her new husband, Chad Daybell.
Chad was there again in early March when Lori made her first court appearance back in Madison County, Idaho, wearing red lipstick and an orange and white jumpsuit. Also there, Larry and Kay Woodcock and Lori's son, Colby.
My whole plan is to try to go figure out a way to actually speak with her and, be able to get in front of her and just ask her son, just try to plead with her. Ask her where Tylee and JJ are. It can't be that hard to answer.
Colby Ryan was able to confront his mother in a very emotional phone call.
You had for me? Probably because you murdered my siblings. That's probably why I'm talking to you. Maybe you should understand.
I didn't necessarily go that way.
You didn't do anything, right?
You weren't there.
You're right.
Chad is the one that murdered the kid.
You will know. Murder.
What?
we will know what actually happened.
You're right. You know what?
And we all will stand there with
Everything.
legal rights.
You're absolutely right. He will convict the people who act in his name with pure blasphemy.
He's laughing.
This is funny. This is funny.
Coming up, 2 dead spouses. Chad Daybell's wife mysteriously dies just days before his marriage to Lori. Plus, Lori's ex-husband, Charles.
So what makes her a danger to herself and to others?
Threaten me, murder me, kill me.
So they kill their significant others, get married, kill the kids, run
A
off to
Wisconsin
Hawaii.
woman accused of killing her friend with eye drops.
And then defrauding her for over $250,000.
And white jumpsuit. Her husband, Chad, still by her side, supporting her during court appearances. Meanwhile, investigators still had no idea where her children were, and frustration over Lori and Chad's refusal to produce Tylee and JJ was starting to boil over.
I only have one question. Where are the kids?
At this point, it had been months since anybody had seen JJ or Tylee, and it sure didn't look like their mother or her new husband seemed to care.
While Rexburg police and the FBI were doing everything in their power to find Tylee and JJ, police in Chandler, Arizona were investigating Lori for another reason: the death of her 4th husband, Charles Vallow.
I got in a fight with my brother-in-law and I shot him in self-defense.
Lori Vallow put his brother up to him.
Yeah, there's blood. He's not moving.
That's Lori's brother, Alex Cox, calling 911 in July of 2019, saying he had just shot and killed his brother-in-law, Charles Vallow.
You know, no weapons?
No weapons on me.
All right, come on out this way.
When police arrive, they find Alex by himself at Lori's newly rented home.
I'm gonna have you have a seat right here on the curb.
Inside is Lori Vallow's 4th husband, Charles, dead on the living room floor.
What happened today? How did it get to this?
Alex told the officers that Charles came after him with a baseball bat, saying it all started between Lori and Charles and that Tylee brought out a bat.
And then your niece pulls out a bat?
Well, it wasn't her. He was getting close, and she came out to defend my sister with her bat.
Your niece?
Yes.
Okay.
And then she poked at him, and then he took it away.
Alex said Lori and Tylee left to take JJ to school, and it was then that Charles came after him with that bat.
I turned around, and he hit me in the back of the head with the bat. So I went to my room and got my gun.
You went to your room, meaning your room you're staying in?
Yeah.
Okay, you brought a gun with you?
Yes.
You always bring a gun?
I can still carry always.
Then Lori and Tylee show up.
Hi, who are you? Okay, just stand over there for just a second, guys.
And then I told him to put the bat down, and he wouldn't, and he came at me again.
And the wife just showed up as well.
And I said, I want you to put that bat down, and he wouldn't do it. He's like, and he came at me with the bat again after he'd already hit me in the head, so I shot him to stop him.
Lori's brother Alex is sitting on the curb telling the police this story, but there is no emotion in his voice. He just killed another person, but he doesn't seem fazed at all.
Then it was Lori's turn to talk to the police.
We just moved in here.
Gotcha. How long have you guys lived here?
I'm sorry?
How long have you lived here?
Like 3 weeks.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Okay.
That's why the neighbors told us.
Gotcha.
Like, hi, neighbor, sorry.
The story of what happened to Charles and Alex and Lori's demeanor was suspicious. An investigation was immediately launched. Larry and Kay Woodcock didn't believe it for a second.
That was the most bull story that I have ever heard in my life. That was a setup, a absolute setup murder for hire.
Remember, Kay is Charles Vallow's sister. She knew that Charles and Lori were having problems. Charles had recently made Kay the beneficiary to his $1 million life insurance policy, which Lori was about to find out.
She ran across, I imagine she was searching for the change of beneficiary form in Charles's file she had in Arizona. And she took a picture of it and she said, 5 kids and no money, and his sister gets everything. That was the last interaction with Lori.
Yeah, last communication.
Lori's ex-husband's death wasn't the only one being investigated. In Idaho, the death of Chad Daybell's wife, Tammy, was also raising suspicion.
Tammy Daybell was a 49-year-old woman in good shape. She was an avid runner, and suddenly she passes away in her sleep.
Chad and Tammy Daybell were married for 28 years before Tammy's death.
They had 5 children. They lived out in little old Salem. He held religious positions in the LDS ward. They were kind of the quintessential Latter-day Saint couple.
Together, Chad and Tammy started a book publishing company. Chad was a prolific writer, authoring more than 30 books, most of them about his past visions and the end of times. Like-minded authors like Chad and Tammy's friend Julie Rowe used the Daybell's publishing company for their books. After Tammy's death, something Chad told Julie about a vision that his wife would die now seemed suspicious.
I did ask him, Chad, do you still see Tammy dying? And he said, yes, I do.
Also suspicious, Chad declined to have an autopsy performed on his wife, and there was his behavior at Tammy's funeral.
He recited many things that were not asked for, and concerning the details of her death. He told us what happened to her that morning. He told us that she had since been to visit him and is helping him set affairs in order, giving him direction on how to handle certain children and their future, and even where they should live, what schools they should go to. He told us all this in just the space of 2 minutes.
At their funeral, he didn't stay there very long. He was upbeat. He was talking to members of the family like nothing was wrong. It didn't seem like it mattered all that much.
Most disturbing, however, just 10 days after Tammy's death, Chad was on a beach in Hawaii marrying his new wife,
10 days
Lori.
later. Tell me that ain't crazy.
Coming up, Lori and Chad.
I think she did a bit of chasing. She was like a Chad groupie. And I think he likes that attention.
And the dark turn of Chad and Lori's religious predictions.
Says, I'm Nick Snyder. I've taken over Charles's body. And Charles will get killed. I'm going to kill you. You're going to be murdered today or tomorrow.
On November 5th, 2019, Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow exchanged wedding vows on a beach in Hawaii. Chad's wife, Tammy, of 28 years, had only been dead for 2.5 weeks, which, for friends and family back in Idaho, was difficult to comprehend.
Nope, not even
Chad marries this woman who is beautiful. She's blonde, she's thin, she's very athletic. It was bizarre that his wife would just die and that he'd hook up with someone so quickly.
Chad, who according to court records received $430,000 in life insurance money, tried to explain his wife Tammy's death to Lori's friend Melanie in a phone call she recorded.
Tammy had been getting weaker and sick, and I begged her to go to the doctor. Her heart was failing her. She was physically falling apart, but she hates doctors.
She was a runner. She was healthy as a horse.
She just passed away.
And there was something else about Tammy's death that didn't seem right.
Lori used her dead husband, Charles's Amazon account to purchase matching wedding rings. But this is 17 days before Chad's wife, Tammy, is dead. She clearly knows that Tammy is about to die.
And
Chad and Lori's beach wedding came just over a year after they first met at a religious conference. Lori's friend, Melanie, was also there. Chad was a featured speaker.
He talked about the different visions he had of what he saw was going to happen in the last days.
Chad's visions, which he claimed started after a near-death diving accident when he was a teenager, made him a celebrity of sorts within a small community of like-minded Mormons that believed the end of the world was imminent.
I've recently released my autobiography entitled Living on the Edge of Heaven, where I tell more about my 2 near-death experiences.
He would have meetings at people's homes where he would sort of promote his books. He would usually have 20, 30 people. He would just talk about the ideas in his books and what he saw in visions. and they were enjoyable to listen to, and I felt they were genuine.
The LDS faith accepts that some people had visions, and Chad let it be known to anyone who would listen that he was one of those special people, that he could see the future and the past.
According to Lori's friend Melanie, Lori and Chad had an instant connection and started communicating and seeing each other to discuss religion and Chad's visions. In December of 2018, they were featured together in a religious podcast.
We're gathering together as saints, as brothers and sisters, and preparing for the second coming of Christ.
It was obvious to Melanie Gibb that there was some chemistry between Chad and Lori, and that they had a relationship that went beyond just their doing podcasts together and discussing the end of the world.
Over the next few months, Lori was also starting to have visions, and Chad told friends that he had lived several past lives on different planets and that he and Lori had actually been married before.
The way he described it was that his veil was more open than it had been, and he started remembering some of his past lives.
Then in early 2019, Chad and Lori's beliefs, according to friends, started getting darker and stranger, including visions that certain people around them had turned into zombies, their bodies taken over by evil forces. One of those people was Lori's husband, Charles Vallow.
Her religious stuff is gone way off the deep end. Just way off.
Charles was so concerned about Lori's behavior, he contacted police, telling officers that Lori believed he, Charles, had been taken over by a zombie named Nick Schneider.
I tried to support her as much as I could, but it's gotten really, really bad. Lately, she's had a break. Says, I'm Nick Schneider. I've taken over Charles's body, and Charles will get killed. I'm going to kill you. You're going to be murdered today or tomorrow. I can do it. I'm not going to get my priesthood with my power. She has priesthood blessings.
Charles also told the officers that Lori had told him that she had special powers and that in a past life she had been married to the angel Moroni, the figure seen holding a trumpet on top of many LDS temples.
She thinks she's married to Moroni in the past.
You think she's what?
We're married to Moroni at the top of the temple.
Angel, LDS.
And she knows when the second coming is happening next year, so there's a prophet. It's scared the crap out of me.
Okay.
6 months later, Charles Vallow was dead. Coming up, Alex Cox.
A lot of people believe that Alex Cox is the family hitman. Lori and Chad would decide who needed to die, and Alex made it happen.
As the bodies start piling up, one person seems to be connected to them all.
He believes that Alex Cox was the person who fired that shot.
She looks like a blonde.
By early March 2020, Tylee and JJ had been missing for nearly 6 months. Lori was in jail. Chad was back in his family home in eastern Idaho. Neither one were talking. Investigators released these photos showing Tylee, JJ, Lori, and Lori's brother Alex Cox. The images were taken on September 8th at Yellowstone National Park. They were the last evidence of Tylee alive. The FBI was now asking for anyone who was at the park that same day to check their photos and send them to investigators.
This message from the FBI that, they wanted more information for the public, it was very evident that there was a lot of information about this case that maybe they couldn't quite piece together.
What investigators did know was the last day both Tylee and JJ were last seen. And on both days, Lori's brother, Alex Cox, was there. He's there in the Yellowstone photos on September 8th, and he was also there the last time JJ was seen on September 22nd. This is doorbell camera video of JJ running, captured on September 17th. The next week, on the night of the 22nd, Lori's friend, Melanie Gibb, was visiting Lori. She brought her boyfriend, David Warwick. The three were recording a religious podcast when Alex Cox walked in with JJ.
He was staying with Alex, and Alex brought him home and carried him to bed.
But the next morning, both Alex and JJ were gone, and the explanation that Lori gave was bizarre, saying her son had turned into a zombie.
She said that he was being a zombie and climbed up on the cabinets, climbed up on top of the fridge, smashed her picture of Christ down, and then climbed up onto the upper cabinets and got between the top of the cabinet and the ceiling. I asked to see him, and she just said that he was out of control. So she had Alex come and get him.
Remember, it was Alex Cox that killed Lori's fourth husband, Charles Vallow,
I
claiming
don't think
it
they
was
were on
self-defense.
drugs.
He came at me. I shot him to stop him.
There was another incident possibly connected to Alex Cox in early October of 2019. Melanie Boudreau, Lori's niece, who moved to Rexburg at the same time as Lori and Alex, her soon-to-be ex-husband Brandon says somebody tried to kill him.
911, where's your emergency?
Someone just shot my window.
Someone shot at your vehicle?
Yeah, and it hit my window. It shattered my driver's side window.
Just barely missed his
Brandon
head.
had dropped off his kids. He was coming back from the gym to his house. And as he pulled up to the curb, a shot came from a nearby Jeep that was parked on the opposite side of the street.
The bullet hit Brandon's Tesla, missing his head by a few inches. The shooter's Jeep with Texas plates was registered to Lori Vallow's ex-husband, Charles, who at the time had been dead for more than 2 months. Brandon says he didn't get a good look at the shooter, but believes he knows who it was.
He believes that Alex Cox was the person who fired that shot. He knew that Alex Cox was kind of the family hitman, and he just fairly quickly came to the conclusion that it was Alex Cox.
Around the same day
They were
Brandon
all
was shot at,
crazy as
Lori was seen with an unidentified male loading a spare tire and what appears to be a vehicle seat in and out of a Rexburg storage unit. Also in October of 2019, another suspicious shooting, possibly tied to Alex Cox. 10 days before Chad's wife, Tammy, mysteriously died in her sleep, she called 911 to report that she'd been shot at in her driveway by a man wearing a mask. She thought maybe it was a paintball gun, but now authorities investigating Tammy's death aren't so sure.
While Tammy Daybell believed that someone tried to shoot her with a paintball gun, the investigators thought it was actually Alex Cox sent there by Lori and Chad to murder Tammy.
12 years before Alex killed Lori's fourth husband, Charles, he served 3 months in a Texas jail for attacking Lori's third husband, Joseph Ryan. According to the police report, Alex Cox used a stun gun on Joseph Ryan and threatened to kill him while accompanying Lori during a child custody exchange. Alex would actually joke about it years later during an open mic comedy routine.
You ever had something that you knew was the right thing to do, but it turns out that later on it was a felony?
Alex Cox was a possible suspect in Charles Vallow's death, Tammy Daybell's death, the shooting of Brandon Boudreau, and the disappearances of both Tylee and JJ. Of course, the connection between Alex Cox and all of these people was his sister Lori.
They had a very, very close relationship. When they moved to Rexburg, he was in the same apartment complex. And we know that he also believed the same sort of religious things that Lori was believing.
Then on December 12th, 2019, another 911 call. Someone else was dead.
911, where is your emergency?
Sorry, I need an ambulance. I have a older male here named Alex. He just passed out here on my bathroom. I think he's passed out.
Okay, you think he's unconscious?
Yes.
On the same day that investigators were exhuming the body of Tammy Daybell, Alex Cox mysteriously ended up dead. The official cause of death was a pulmonary embolism. The children were still missing, and now one of the main suspects in their disappearance was gone. Coming up, a major break.
Throughout the investigation, detectives and investigators have recovered what's believed to be human remains,
Chad Daybell under arrest after Tylee and JJ are found buried in his backyard.
They dug a little bit more around the round object, which appeared to me to be the crown of a head.
As spring turned to the summer of 2020 in Rexburg, Idaho, there was still no sign of the missing children, Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow. It had been 8 months since they'd last been seen. Their mother, Lori Vallow, had been in jail since February, and her new husband, Chad Daybell, was not cooperating with police. The couple's bizarre religious beliefs included the thought that the end of the world was coming.
At this point, people thought JJ and Tylee were either dead or hopefully they were in some sort of end-of-the-world bunker being taken care of by Chad Daybell's followers.
Friends say Chad and Lori believed that not only was the end of the world coming, but when it happened, they would be leading the 144,000 chosen ones mentioned in the Bible.
So the book of Revelation has a chapter in which it talks about how when Jesus comes back to the earth, or in anticipation of that, then there will be 12,000 elders or members from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. And so when you do 12 times 12,000, that's how you get to 144,000.
Chad and Lori also believed that evil spirits had taken over the bodies of people around them, calling them zombies. Lori even told her friend Melanie Gibb that her own children, JJ and Tylee, were zombies. According to Melanie, Tylee had overheard her mother talking about it on the phone.
Tylee hears her mom say that she's a zombie, and according to Melanie Gibb, Tylee responds, "No, Mom, I'm not a zombie." How heartbreaking, because Tylee knows what it means to be a zombie in her mom's twisted head. It's incredibly sad.
Then, on June 9th, almost 9 months to the day after Tylee was last seen, Rexburg police and the FBI served a search warrant on Chad Daybell's home. They'd searched the property before during the winter when the ground was frozen. Now they were back, interested specifically in the backyard.
I observed the evidence response recovery team and also cadaver dogs working the entire backyard. So they worked the pond area, and then they had marked off other areas inside the backyard.
Something stood out in the pond area on the north side of the property. Fresh sod on top of several rocks. Beneath the rocks, some paneling.
As soon as they removed the paneling, I could smell the odor of a decomposing body.
It was JJ. The 7-year-old's body was buried in Chad Daybell's backyard, wrapped in plastic and duct tape.
And then as I cut through the white plastic, that's when the, possible human hair started coming out onto my hands. And that was the point where we determined this is human remains.
Then they started digging in a pet cemetery. They found Tylee, dismembered and burned.
They had located what would appear to be a mass of burnt flesh and charred bone.
Earlier that morning, before the remains were located, Chad Daybell was watching the evidence response team in his backyard when he received a call from the Madison County Jail. His wife, Lori, was calling to say hello.
Are you okay?
So there's such the property.
The house right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Were they in the house?
No, they're the property.
Are they seizing stuff again?
They're searching. I love you so much.
Okay, I love you. Should I try to call you later?
I don't know.
After the phone call from Lori, Chad decided to take off. He was picked up and arrested by investigators immediately after they found the first set of remains.
Now both are in jail facing murder charges. Lori ends up being the first to go to trial. There were no cameras allowed inside. The courtroom was packed, and Larry and Kay Woodcock were there every day.
The defendant, Lori Vallow Daybell, used money, power, and sex, or the promise of those things, to get what she wanted.
She was a kind and loving mother to her children. The evidence will show she had a particular interest in religion in the end of times.
The defendant told others that with the help of Chad, she could rate people as light or dark. And they evolved to, well, a person could be so dark or a spirit could be so evil that the person actually becomes a zombie. You can't cast a zombie out. But a common theme was the body had to be destroyed.
In order to make sure a demon doesn't come back, the body has to be destroyed in some way.
Correct.
Burning is one way.
Correct.
Is there anything about binding?
I believe so.
So she had told you prior to the move to Rexburg that JJ2 was being attacked by demons.
Correct. Right before she moved to Rexburg, she said that Tylee had been possessed by evil spirit or a demon.
We determined her cause of death to be the result of asphyxia, and her manner of death to be homicide.
Did Lori indicate whether or not she thought it was okay that they were engaging in intimate relations?
She did. She felt it was according to God's will.
You don't get married 4 weeks after you just buried your wife of almost 30 years. You just don't do that.
I don't know.
And we found out it had only been 2 weeks after she had been buried.
From Chad Daybell to Lori Vallow, I need so badly to just gently kiss you for hours. It would likely lead to other activities. It would luckily lead to nakedness. Just grab me by the storm and I will follow you to the ends of the universe.
Are you aware of what some of the phrase "grab me by the storm and I will follow you to the ends of the earth" meant?
The word storm is the name they had given to Chad Daybell's penis.
The jury took 2 days
Oh,
to
Lord.
deliberate, and when they reached their verdict, you could hear a pin drop inside the courtroom. Lori stood up with her attorneys on both sides of her, but still didn't show any visible signs of emotion.
Is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan, of Joshua Jackson Vallow? Answer, guilty. Is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell? Answer, guilty.
Before Lori was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, she had something to say.
Jesus knows me, and Jesus understands me. I mourn with all of you who mourn my children and Tammy.
In addition to the 3 life sentences for the deaths of Tylee, JJ, and Tammy, Lori Vallow also faces charges in Arizona in connection to the death of her husband, Charles.
Something was taken from us and from our friends and our family that obviously we can't replace. JJ and Tylee should have had an unbelievable life ahead of them. Lori is going to get and receive what she reaped.
Yeah.
She's going to have a miserable life.
I think she'll be in her hell on earth.
She made choices, and it was horrible choices. She has to say to herself some days, what was I thinking?
Shortly after her conviction, Lori Vallow Daybell filed an appeal asking for a new trial. As for Chad Daybell, he is facing murder charges for the deaths of Tylee, JJ, and his wife Tammy. He has pled not guilty. His trial is scheduled for the spring of 2024.
Okay, so I just wanted to recap a little bit of that. That was a long recap, but basically these people are never getting out of prison. Now she wants to defend herself, and it really don't matter if she defends herself because either way, she's never getting out of prison. So basically what she wants to do is turn the court into a circus and use this to push her doomsday conspiracy. Now, believe it or not, there's a lot of people out here that believe the world is going to end. They push this same, I don't know about the zombie part, but you can turn on YouTube and there's a whole bunch of people just alone on YouTube saying, hey, the world's about to end. You know how many times people have said the world's going to end and it hasn't? Remember Y2K, the world was going to end. The Mayan calendar, the world was going to end. And these Mormon people, they got some pretty crazy beliefs. Some people believe, they're a cult in itself, Now, I believe you have the right to be whatever religion you want, as long as you ain't hurting people or doing nothing that breaks, you know. A lot of Mormons like to marry young girls or, you know, have relations with young girls, which is completely wrong. It's not acceptable in our society. So I don't know. She's a nutcase, and she's going to go into court and be a nutcase unless they do something to stop her and, you know, find her incompetent to be her own defense, and they make her have a lawyer. But either way, she's never getting out of prison. Now, I'm going to roll into this next case, and then we'll take phone calls. I want to get through the 3 because lately I ain't been getting through my whole things because the phone calls run so long. And that's Richard Allen in the Delphi murders, okay, of Abby and Libby. Now, for the longest time, hold on, guys, I've been saying that Richard Allen is innocent, that somebody else led Abby and Libby to the tracks in Delphi. They read Chad's guilty verdict at CrimeCon. That's right. I remember that. We was at CrimeCon and they were watching it on the TV at CrimeCon. And then when they found him guilty, everybody was standing around a table, just, you know, true crime people that went there for the true crime convention were all cheering. So everybody was cheering when he was found guilty. We'll go over some more of that in the phone calls of Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell, the whole doomsday prophecy type stuff. But let me get through this Richard Allen stuff because I've been wanting to tap in on this for the last few days, and I always put it at the end and I never get to it. So Richard Allen, you know, he's being charged with the Delphi murders, and he has confessed to this crime a total of 61 times that he's confessed. He confessed on the phone to his wife, different police. He's written it. But the whole thing is he's saying he confessed under, you know, stress, that he was locked down by himself in isolation. And basically, I believe this man has some mental health issues. Now, they did find one unspent bullet at the scene. And when I mean unspent, it wasn't fired. Now, Richard Allen's confessed that he shot and killed Abby and Libby 61 times. But here's the problem. Abby and Libby won't shot. Okay? He's confessing and he don't know the details to the crime. So I believe Richard Allen has some mental health issues, and they are railroading this man into prison. And what makes it so weird is the courts have had a lot of problems with this Odinism and the lawyer saying he's not being treated fair. The judge fired the lawyer, put one of her friends to represent Richard Allen, and that lawyer came forward and said that Richard Allen wasn't being treated fairly. They brought him in shackled, handcuffed like Hannibal Lecter. They were housing him in the prison. Now, here's the thing. He hasn't been convicted of any crime yet, and he was already in prison, which is strange, right? So now they're not televising the court. They have big barriers around the court, so you can't see any coming or going. And they were seizing reporters' phones that were videotaping outside the court. It's like they don't want none of this Richard Allen stuff out whatsoever. So we're going to do a little recap just so y'all know what's going on in the Delphi. And then I'll open up the phone lines, okay? That way we're all on the same page when you call in.
I'm Vinny Politan. The subject of my investigation is the Delphi murders, a crime that broke the hearts of a community that turned into an investigation cloaked in secrecy and then turned into a trial with limited public access. And as all this plays out, many are wondering if the truth will be revealed. Here's the story.
I think Keegan Klein is the one that done it, but I'll get into that after this.
It was a mystery that broke the hearts of two families, terrified a small community, and touched the world. The murders of two young girls, Abby Williams and Libby German. The case became known as the Delphi murders. The setting, a small Indiana town of just 3,000 people. From the beginning, investigators suspected it was someone local, which made it even more difficult for everyone living in this small community. It all started on February 13th, 2017, when Libby and Abby went hiking. The two teenagers were good friends and had the day off from school. The weather was unseasonably warm, but when Libby and Abby did not show up when they were supposed to get picked up, their families began to worry and they began to search. Then the next day, the bodies of these two girls were found, both victims of murder. Then over the course of the next 5+ years, there were no answers, no arrests, just a series of disjointed clues, like two sketches that looked nothing alike, a video of a suspected killer, and a short audio recording of his voice. Then finally, 5 years after the murders, an arrest. Richard Allen, a man who worked at the local CVS, was charged. Someone who was not on anyone's radar, but someone who admitted to being at the bridge that day. Allen says he's innocent, and his lawyers have been battling with the judge to try to present evidence of who they say is actually responsible. Cameras have been banned by the judge, and now the public waits to see if the truth will come out inside of a courtroom. This case, the murder, the investigation, the trial, everything has been a little bit unusual. I want to go back in time, though, to the day after the girls were found. And this is a brutal, brutal scene. But here's the information that was revealed by the Indiana State Police who were leading up this investigation.
Basically, we have identified the bodies of the two females that were found out yesterday. The bodies have been positively identified as Abigail J. Williams, 13, of the Delphi area, and Liberty Rose Lynn German, 14, of the Delphi area. The two girls were reported missing on Monday, February 13th. The bodies were discovered about 12:15 on the 14th in the woods just east of town here by volunteers that helped in the search of the children after they were reported missing to the Carroll County Sheriff's Department. Family has been notified. This is considered a double homicide investigation.
Yes, Diana.
No further information will be released at this time.
And that time, again, is 2017. And it became a murder mystery for 5 years. It wasn't solved. But the other part of it was the investigation, the evidence, everything was kept secret, was kept private, was kept away from the public. And there's reasons why investigators do that, but there's also reasons why some things do get revealed at a certain point. Then they arrest Richard Allen, and still we know very, very little. And then we find out this, which is 6 years after the murders. We finally get a little more information from the state court documents that were filed in June of 2023. Autopsies of the girls ruled their deaths as homicides, and their wounds were caused by a sharp object. That was it. That was it. Like I said, unlike most cases that we cover here on Court TV around the nation, in all states, we're in Indiana for this one. So this secrecy, this lack of transparency and information brings me to our first question, which is extremely important in a murder case, which is how were Abby and Libby murdered? What are the details of what happened to these two young, innocent girls?
And
joining me, Court TV senior
blamed.
producer, Barbara McDonald, and retired medical examiner and forensic pathologist, Dr. Michelle Dupree. Thank you both. Barbara, I want to begin here and take a look at what has come out, what we've learned about Abigail Williams. One gaping wound on the neck,
$2
approximately 1 inch deep,
Thank you, Miss Margaret.
likely cut right to left. Markings on the face consistent with some type of restraint on the lower face underneath the mouth. This is information that, to me, very new, that we're learning and beginning to paint a more precise picture of what happened to Abigail here.
Yeah, we got that information when the forensic pathologist testified, and that's Dr. Roland Kaur. He described the one injury to Abby. Libby had more injuries, but he also described that after these injuries were inflicted, that it would have taken 5 to 10 minutes, perhaps longer, for them to become unconscious and then to pass away. Also on the stand, he talked about a murder weapon. He, for many years in his report, said that he didn't know what sort of weapon was used, just that it was a sharp object. But he testified in court that he now believes, in the last couple of months, he's come to believe that it might have been a box cutter that was used. And he said he figured that out because of some markings on Libby's neck that looked like they were caused by a serrated blade, and that he was working in his own shop at his home one day and saw a box cutter and said, that looks like what could have caused these wounds, or at least the one wound to Libby. On cross-examination, though, he did admit that that was purely speculation on his part, and he doesn't have any hard evidence that that was, in fact, the weapon.
Dr. Dupree, 1 inch deep, cut right to left.
No motive. Just
what does that tell you?
There.
Well, that tells you that whoever did this was probably right-handed, because that is the way that a typical person would do that. They would cut from right to left.
The markings on the face consistent with some type of restraint on the lower face under the mouth. I'm trying to understand that.
Yeah, it's a very faint marking that he said was more visible in the photographs that he took at autopsy and not as visible on the body. He described it as being below the mouth, so not preventing her from being able to breathe, if that was in fact a restraint that was on her during this attack. But he couldn't explain what caused it, other than to refer to it as some sort of a restraint.
So Dr. Dupree, how can someone make that determination?
Well, sometimes it's very difficult, but if there is some kind of bruising or some kind of redness or something like that, it may be if he held her throat or held her chin and then sliced her throat, that could be what caused that. And it would cause a very subtle injury.
Now, looking at what happened to Libby, 3 to 5 wounds on her neck. 2 injuries look like they had a second pass. Blood on hands indicates Libby tried to put pressure on the wounds to stop the bleeding. And again, as Barbara's reporting, believes a box cutter caused the serrated marks on Libby's leftmost wound. Let's start there, Dr. Dupree, with the box cutter theory. What are your thoughts there?
Well, it's certainly possible. It appears that what he is describing is a very thin blade, perhaps serrated, and there are many, many types of box cutters or utility knives that would have a serrated edge on that. So it's very likely that could be what caused it.
Now, another part is the autopsy more of the autopsy findings. It's performed on the morning of February 15th, but they can't determine the exact time of death. The girls likely died somewhere around 41 hours before the autopsy. Rape kits were performed. No signs of sexual trauma. And Barbara, again, to me, this is a big part of this, right? Girls may have been alive for 5 to 10 minutes after the infliction of the wounds. Putting these pieces together with everything else that you know about this case, Barbara, what are you taking away from what we learned from the?
So let me recap for a second. So Richard Allen has confessed 61 times that he's committed this crime. Okay, but the problem is he don't know what the crime scene looked like. He said that he shot these girls, Now, there was an unspent bullet casing at the scene. And a lot of people say, well, how could he have controlled the girls while he was killing one? Why didn't one run? Because he had a gun, right? He had a gun. He didn't shoot him because the gun would have made too much noise. And when you're out in the woods like that and you fire off a shot, it echoes. Like you can hear it for a good ways. And they were only a little over a mile past the bridge. Okay. So he must have walked them about 15 minutes away from the bridge, because you can walk a mile in about 12 to 15 minutes. So he must have walked them 15 minutes from the bridge where, this assault took place on the property of Ron Logan, another guy that they suspected. Now, Richard Allen, he said he was there. He didn't know how the killings happened. But what they're leaving out is Abby and Libby was communicating with somebody on the computer by the name of Anthony Schatz. Anthony Schatz account was catfished. It wasn't really Anthony Schatz. It was a man by the name of Keegan Klein that was controlling the site of Anthony Schatz. The girls went to that park that day to meet up with Anthony Schatz, which was this young male model they thought they were going to go hang out with. And come to find out, Anthony Schatz was really a big, fat, nasty ass child. This dude's in jail right now for collecting child pornography, right? So they were really supposed to meet this fat, nasty dude that was catfishing an account by the name of Anthony Schatz. Now, I've always thought Keegan Klein was responsible because he is the one that led them to the bridge. Now, what's the chances of Keegan Klein leading them to the bridge and then Richard Allen just happening to be there and killing these kids, but he don't know how they died? Okay. Then after, this is some of the stuff they're leaving out, after Abby and Libby was killed, Anthony Schatz, the account Anthony Schatz, started talking to one of Abby and Libby's friends. Okay. So this little girl was talking to him about, have you seen Abby and Libby? Abby and Libby were missing. And so this girl comes home from school, and when she gets off the school bus, there's a man at her window with a black ski mask on. Okay. Now, was that Richard Allen or was that Anthony Schatz? It's funny that everybody that talked to Anthony Schatz' account were either dead or there was somebody trying to get them, which would have been the third little girl, which is lucky to be alive, because if she probably would have not seen them and went into that house, we would have 3 dead little girls right now. Okay. Because they were being catfished by this Anthony Schatz account, and they're leaving all this out. Now, they were trying to stop the defense from calling Keegan Klein into the courtroom, right? But now the defense has the right to call Keegan. Because, if I was Richard Allen, I would say, hey, well, Keegan is the one that talked to him. Keegan is the one that led him there. And Keegan most likely is the one responsible for the deaths of Abby and Libby. You got the wrong person. But Richard Allen, I believe, has mental health problems and he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And he just kind of went along with what they were saying. And they're using him as the fall guy, which don't make any sense to me because they already have Keegan Klein in custody. And when they raided Keegan Klein's house, he had all kinds of child pornography all over his computer, right? Did Allen even know the girls? No, he did not know the girls. He had no connections to the girls. The only person that had connections to the girls, and this is all the girls, is Keegan Klein, right? And listen, before I was in true crime, I was watching, I don't know if it was 2020, something on TV, and they started talking about the Delphi murders. Okay. I wasn't even a YouTuber yet. And I watched it and I kind of was pretty interested in it. I was like, wow, this is crazy. This is just like a big mystery. So over the years, over the last 7 years, I've kind of followed it, not so much in true crime, but just as a viewer, like you guys watching, right? So then, I started watching, and then the state police came out I remember when the state police came out and they said they were trying to figure out anybody that had talked to Anthony Shots, which was the account on Snapchat or whatever account, social media account it was. But they were looking for anybody, any young ladies that may have traded pictures, and I think this is what he was doing. He was getting nudes. He was acting like he was this little supermodel young boy, and he was hitting up these young girls, and they were trading pictures like nudes, and he was getting nude pictures. And this is why he had so much child pornography on his computer when they raided him. So Keegan was doing these things, right? And they came out and, the state police and said, hey, we need to find out who this Anthony Shots person is. Okay. And who controls this site. And I knew right then, I was like, okay, if they know it's a site, they know the name of it, they're going to catch this person. I was pretty confident in that. I was like, okay, they got this wrapped up, right? They're going to find this person. That's a good clue, right? Because they knew Anthony Shots was talking to Abby and Libby. So about a year goes by, a year and a half after that, they come out and they say, look, we got it figured out. We just need a little time to make the arrest. We want to make sure we got everything right. We want to make sure we got time to put it all together. And at this point, I knew that Keegan Klein had confessed to being Anthony Shots. So I was like, okay, they're going to announce that they're charging Keegan Klein with the murder of Anthony Shots. Matter of fact, the Murder Sheet podcast, they actually found the transcripts where Keegan confessed to being Anthony Shots, right? And that he had talked to Abby and Libby. So it had got released somehow by accident, and the Murder Sheet podcast found it. So they exposed that Keegan was Anthony Shots. That's when I found out that Keegan was Anthony Shots. So then about a year goes by and they make the arrest. So, me, of course, I'm thinking they're going to name, and Keegan Klein as the killer of Abby and Libby, and they're going to wrap this case up. Then they say they have arrested Richard Allen. And I was like, who the hell is Richard Allen? Right? I was confused. I was like, what? That don't even make no sense, right? Because this dude would have just had to be a killer, would just happen to be there where some other weirdo led these little girls to. I was like, the chances of that is like astronomical. There's just no way that could happen. I mean, I guess anything's possible. We know anything in this world is possible. But I was just like, no way. That just can't be. And as soon as they arrest him, that's why I've always thought he was innocent. I was like, there's no way. There's just no way. And then the way he's been treated and the way the courts are going, I was like, they're going to railroad this dude into prison because he's saying he did it and he has mental health issues. Listen, people confess all the time to crimes they don't commit. I know it sounds crazy. Like, why would people say they did something they didn't do? But it happens, right? So I don't think Richard Allen is guilty. All right, let me finish playing this. We'll take some calls in just a few minutes.
Forensic pathologist.
One of the things that I wondered as he talked about that 5 to 10 minute window where the girls, he described that Abby certainly would have been able to breathe, that she could have been able to cry or speak, and that they could have moved. And we've heard a lot of the defense theory that this scene was staged and that these girls were positioned. And as the forensic pathologist testified, I kind of wondered if during that time, the girls perhaps moved themselves into the positions that they were ultimately found in.
Dr. Dupree, 5 to 10 minutes after the wounds, they're surviving. How much suffering, how much pain, how cognizant are they of what is happening in the moment?
Well, they would certainly have a lot of emotions. They would be scared. They would be absolutely terrified. They would be in pain. They would be bleeding basically out. They wouldn't probably be conscious for the whole 5 to 10 minutes because they would pass out from the lack of blood. However, it would be a very painful death.
This is difficult. Barbara, any reaction from the family to all of these new details being revealed?
I wasn't able they have the media sitting in the front row of the courtroom, so I wasn't able during much of that testimony to look back at the reaction. But throughout these days in court, we have seen a lot of very emotional reactions from these families. You can tell that they're crying during breaks, during testimony, that it is very, very difficult. It's difficult for everyone to listen to many of these details and see these photos of the crime scene and the autopsy. They're very graphic, as you might imagine. And so I think everyone in the courtroom is really struggling with these materials. The judge even at one point commented to the prosecutor that she appreciated their efforts to sanitize the images that were shown to the jury as much as possible. Jurors are also having a very difficult time looking at this material. I do notice that they are looking a lot over in the direction of the victims' families as much of this testimony has played out.
Okay. It is, I mean, it's heartbreaking. Our guests are staying with us. Coming up next, this is, I think, an important question in all of this, with the crime scene and what we're learning. Was this a sex?
Don't wear it up.
He told you, sir, I can't agree.
Very low right now, much lower than it was at the time of the crime. But even to come up here, this is pretty steep, slippery. The ground is soft. There's a lot of leaves down to trees. And it is not an easy walk. And then you could over to this area where it's flat. This is where they were found.
That's Barbara McDonald on the scene, at the crime scene, on the property where Abby and Libby were found, but also the creek. Very important because evidence is found in the creek, and according to prosecutors, the girls and the killer had to cross that creek to get to where they were. Now, let's talk about the two victims here. Again, young girls, and how they were found, what they were wearing. We begin with Abby. Abigail Williams is found in a sweatshirt, but it was Libby's sweatshirt, not her own sweatshirt. She was wearing Libby's sweatshirt. She's wearing 2 bras. She's wearing Libby's jeans, and she's wearing a tank top. Strange, right? So her clothes are off, and she's got Libby's clothes on. In the meantime, Libby is found wearing nothing. She's nude. Abby's wearing Libby's clothes, and Libby is found nude. Strange, more strange facts with all of this. Like, what does that mean?
And she wasn't sexually assaulted. So what the killer had to have done is stripped her down, made the other girl put on her clothes before he killed them. It's really bizarre, you know, and then the bodies were staged with these like sticks in weird positions, like almost like they were trying to spell something out, which makes it even more bizarre.
Brings me to my next question. Was this a sex crime? Was this a sex crime?
Hey, Justice Jane.
And don't forget what we learned in the autopsy. There was no sign of trauma or sexual assault. Still with me, Barbara McDonald and Dr. Michelle Dupree. Barbara, let's talk more about the way the girls were found and where they were found. Because to answer this question about whether or not this is a sex crime, I think that's all very relevant about what is found where. And the clothes that are missing, I guess, are found in the creek, right?
Yes, about 30 or 40 feet away from where Abby and Libby were found. And they weren't all found in the same exact area.
Hey,
there was
Pac-Man.
3 different areas in the creek where that clothing was found, maybe 10 feet between each of those groupings. Some of the clothing was completely submerged at the bottom of the creek, and then other clothing was sort of caught up on tree limb debris that was in the creek that made it visible from the surface of the water.
Dr. Michelle Dupree, I'm trying to understand this, what happened here, right? The scene. And from your perspective, listening to some of this evidence, was this a sex crime?
Actually, it sounds like it could be. We know that there was some undressing and redressing, and we often find that when there is an element of sex involved. It doesn't mean that, of course, that there was any sex that took place. He may not have been able to perform. There's all kinds of other things that this could have been. But it sounds like a sex crime to me.
Barbara McDonald, this gets right into motive. The motive area, right? Like, why did this killer, and if it's Richard Allen, why did Richard Allen abduct these 2 girls? What was his motivation behind it? Was it sexual in nature? Have prosecutors alluded to that?
Yes, in his opening statement, prosecutor Nicholas McClelland said that the state believes that Richard Allen abducted these 2 girls and marched them down that hill so that he could, quote, have his way with them, but was interrupted. And then he marched them across the creek where he ultimately killed them.
So, Dr. Dupree, can there be molestation or sexual assault without leaving behind evidence of that?
Well, of course, we always hope that there is evidence left behind, but certainly there can be. He could have even tried sexual acts post-mortem, and that's not out of the realm of possibility. So there should be some evidence. It doesn't necessarily mean that we would find trauma. It just depends on, what he did in the sex act.
So, Barbara, can you remind us of how the girls were when they were found in terms of positioning and such, and how that could potentially illuminate the situation of what motivated this killing?
Yeah, we also do know, Vinny, that sexual assault kits were done at autopsy. We have not heard yet whether any analysis is back on that and what that might reveal, if anything. But the girls were found in this sort of floodplain area of land that was owned by Ron Logan on the north side of Deer Creek. They were abducted from the bridge on the south side of that creek and marched about a quarter of a mile to where they ended up. Libby, as you mentioned earlier, or rather Abby was fully clothed in Libby's clothing, which was wet. She also was wearing her Converse sneakers. They were also wet, but when those were taken off of her feet and photographed, the bottom of her feet, there was dirt and debris from the creek and from the ground on her feet. So it certainly indicates that at some point during this encounter, her shoes were off and then put back on.
So, I mean, how do we know she wasn't sexually assaulted and then rinsed off in the creek? That would explain her being wet. That would explain her being naked, her being barefoot, that she was sexually assaulted and then rinsed off, and then unalived. And it was just an attack on the one girl and not the other. And that explains why she was fully clothed. Now, the weird thing is, why would he make her put on Libby's clothes? It's just weird.
Also notice you could only see one of her shoes in the photographs that were shown in court. And in that photograph, her shoe appears to be untied with the tongue pulled out of it, as if you were prepping it to be taken off or put back on a foot. The other shoe was sort of under her leg, and I couldn't tell.
Okay, I want to show y'all this picture PJ sent me. This is the way that they were posed. And this is why people think it was something from a ritual. Let me see if y'all can see this. All right. Y'all see that? So she was, you know, they had these sticks placed over them, and people were like, were they posed in this position? Did they die and get themselves in these positions? I don't think they did, because these sticks were placed after they were found dead. Okay. So a little graphic right there. I mean, not too graphic. You can't see nothing, but you get to see how they were laying on the ground when they were discovered. So they didn't crawl up under these sticks. These sticks were placed on top of them for some type of reason. And this is where people get into the occult or Odinism or something else is going on here. And, you know, the saying that the one girl's blood was drained out of her, you know, and she's naked. The other little girl has all the clothes on, and they're wet clothes. Like at some point she had to have been in the creek, is what I think.
If that one was tied or what condition that one was in. And then Libby was near her. Their feet were closer together than their heads were, but they were.
And this just in too, Leilani's sentencing is November 21st. Okay. So be here bright and early for court, November 21st, 10:30. It's a Thursday. That is Leilani Simon, the mother of Quentin Simon, the case we've been covering all last week. She will be in court November 21st at 10:30. Breaking news with Dolly. Okay, breaking news. So be ready November 21st, 10:30. Leilani gets sentenced to life in prison. Don't miss it. Be here with Dolly. All right.
Still a couple of maybe 2 feet apart where their feet were. And,
we're out of time for
Libby
now. We're out of time for now. I'm Vinny Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues. Murders. 2 young girls are dead. A small community is changed forever, and some are wondering if the right man has actually been charged. Here's the story.
That's what
Teenagers Abby Williams and Libby German were best friends, living in the small rural community of Delphi, Indiana. On February 13th, 2017, the girls had a day off from school, so they decided to go on an outdoor adventure. They were dropped off near the Monon High Bridge, and while on that bridge, Libby recorded a man with her phone, uttering the words, "Down the hill." It was down the hill where Libby and Abby would be murdered. Prosecutors say the man on the bridge is responsible, and that man is Richard Allen. But Allen and his attorneys say prosecutors have it all wrong. They say Allen is innocent, and it was someone else on the bridge that day who took the lives of these 2 innocent girls. What is the truth? And will Abby and Libby get justice? A big part of this story, I mean, a huge part of this story for part of the 5 years was we're looking for a guy and there's video of the killer. Think about that for a second, right? There's an actual video of the killer and they're searching for 5 years for who this man is. So I'm going to show you the video, and not only is there video, but there's also an audio recording of him speaking. So we've kind of put the two together here, and you can see the video that was released by police and hear the audio that was released as well. That's just a piece of the video. It's longer than that. That's just the piece that they released. They kept the rest of it to themselves to use at trial. So that brings me to my next question, which is, what does the video reveal? They say that's the killer. What does it reveal? Joining me, Court TV senior producer Barbara McDonald has been covering the story since the beginning, and criminal defense attorney Bob Mata inside that courtroom. Both have been inside the courtroom, obviously. Okay, let's talk about the video, Barbara. I want to put this up on the screen. Recorded February 13th, 2017, 2:13 on an iPhone 6S. Libby is heard saying there's no path. The trail ends here. We have to go down there. Then the man, the bridge man, the killer says, guys. Abby says, hi. Man says, down the hill. Is it clear that that's what's happening on this video?
It wasn't super clear to everyone. That was the consensus of the media, is that Abby says hi after he says guys. The prosecutor had laid out in their search warrant or probable cause affidavit on Richard Allen that the man, or that Abby rather, says the word gun in that video. No one who was in court as that video played heard the word gun. They thought that it sounded like Abby said hi, but they also played an unenhanced and then the enhanced version. The entire video is 43 seconds long, and I think it's certainly up for debate what exactly the words are that are spoken in that video.
Bob Mata, 43-second video.
Hit
What
that
does it
like if
reveal?
you're just tuning in, guys.
Well,
let's see if we get to
initially
1,000.
when they showed it and the way that it went down is they showed the unadulterated, unenhanced video first. And my instinct, and unfortunately I can't have my watch in because I have an Apple Watch, so I couldn't time it. But the feeling of it is that I looked to my seat neighbor and I said, was that 43 seconds? Because it didn't seem like 43 seconds. And when I'm initially looking at it the first time, and they only played it one time, I don't see the man behind Abby. I'm like, where was the guy? And the person next to me is like, well, I think I saw the guy. So then when they put the next witness on, who was the witness that did the enhancement, they played it again. So we got to see it a second time, and I was diligently looking for the guy. So I see the guy, and he's way back there, okay? And he's clearly still on the bridge, all right? Now, you've heard enough about this bridge, Vinny. At this point, there is no walking across this bridge without looking down to see where you're going. It is not possible. You will fall to your death.
Right. Bob, we're taking a look at it right now so people understand the Monon High Bridge. This is a bridge I would never go over, but people do, and they did. So explain this to me one more time. The proximity of the man
that is
to the girls, and if the girls are recording him. I mean, we've seen this one zoom shot. It looks like he's got a gate to it. I don't know if that's just because the video's looped. So compare what we're looking at now, which is like a zoom in, and it's kind of blurry, right? Of this man versus what was shown and what the whole video actually looks like.
So it's from Libby's POV. Okay, so the first shot we see is Abby probably about, what would you say, Barbara, 10 yards away from Libby where she's filming, and she's still on the bridge. I'd say 25 to maybe 30 yards beyond her is the guy. So then the focus goes to the ground, and you hear Libby talking. She's saying, oh, here's some gravel. And then she flashes back up momentarily. You see Abby for just a second, who looks like she's kind of jogging because she's reached the end of the bridge. All right. So she's off the bridge. She's still on the tracks, but she's off the bridge. And then she goes back down to the ground, Libby does, with her filming, and says something to the effect that there's no path. This is where we can go down, or there's no path to go down. Maybe Barbara can remember exactly what she says. And then you hear at the very, very end, Vinny, the very last maybe 2 seconds is where you hear what sounds like a male voice. And then that's it. It's over.
And
so you don't, that's the whole thing.
When do you see it? Like this video I've been looking at for years, it wasn't so clear. So there might only be this one little clip of him.
Yeah. I think what Bob was indicating, as Libby is holding the phone, she's motioning with that hand. And so she pulls the hand down and you see the ground, and then she pulls her hand back up as she's talking and motioning. And that's when you get to see the man and Abby a little bit more. But it's out of the 43 seconds, he's not in frame for very many of those seconds. And some of the seconds that he would possibly be visible, Abby is between him and Libby, and so blocking the view of the man. So it's really, there's not a lot of information in that video that's particularly helpful about what exactly happened.
Right. We get to see his clothing, though, right? We get to see his clothing, but for the jury that's looking at this, they don't get what we have, right? Which is the looped close-up image of this person. They get the whole thing.
Right. They get to see it once.
That's it, Bob? Once? They see it once and that's it?
Once. And then when the reconstruction guy or the enhancement guy came on, they played it a second time. So that's all we saw it. And what I'm suggesting is, and I'm curious as to what Barb's opinion is on this, and I think we probably talked about it outside of court. How does he make up that distance in that short period of time under the conditions that I talked about initially, which is he has to traverse that bridge.
Wait a minute. Wait, are you saying that it may not be the bridge man whose voice that is?
You cannot see his mouth move.
Wow. So is it possible someone that's on the other side of that bridge? And Barbara, what's on the other side of the bridge? Who would be there? Who would have access to that?
Private property. That's where the private property begins. There are some paths.
Whose private property is that?
It's the Weber property. And I believe at the time it was owned by his parents, but Brad Weber was living there. I believe now it is his property, but it is private property on the south end of that bridge.
Interesting.
It's a loop of the bridge, guys. It's a split second of them.
So this video
He's
that
not
we've
really
been waiting
even
for you,
walking,
like
it's one step.
what was released is much clearer
really takes is one step
than what was shown.
Flipping like a.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
So it's not a video of him walking.
Yeah, that is not what the video looks like. That image, that has been enhanced, and they've zoomed in on it. They've taken those frames of the video and they've enhanced it. So they got as close up, they got it as unblurry as they could get it. And that's what we've been seeing for all these years. It's not what the video looks like at all. I mean, that guy is off in the distance.
And what you're saying
people have
is,
asked, why isn't there more video? And
Right.
there's no more of him
He's
to
off
show.
with the
That's
distance.
it.
Who's talking?
and again, the distance and the time significant here, because from what you saw, Bob, when you see the whole video, which again has not been made public, the amount of time that it might take for the bridge guy to be close enough to be heard on the video may or may not make sense to you, Bob? Is that what you're saying?
It doesn't. I just don't see, and again, it's hard to gauge distance, right? Because you're looking at him and he's definitely in the background. Like, Barb, what do you think? Like, what would you estimate how far when we first see him? Because I'm telling you, I did not see him at all the first time that they played the video. The second time I was diligently only looking.
But when that video begins, he is definitely some distance behind Abby. She seems to be sort of trying to hurry. She's looking down, trying to hurry off of the bridge to get to where Libby is, who's already off the bridge on that south side. But by the time the video is about to end, he definitely seems to have made up that distance. Either he's very familiar with that bridge and had no problem speeding up, or I suppose you could argue that there's another voice from somewhere else, because you don't see that man speaking those words on that video.
This is so different than what I expected. So different than what I expected. Our guests are staying with us. Still to come. Did eyewitnesses see Richard Allen?
The lady said whoever it was definitely didn't have blue eyes.
Richard Allen,
And
you
Richard
child
Allen has blue
murderer.
eyes.
Why did you do it?
One of the most successful true crime TV shows ever.
This is crazy.
Now has a new home on America's original true crime obsession. 48 hours
They are
on
trying
Court
the wrong
TV.
person. Yes,
Coming
I
up
agree.
next on Court TV.
What happened that night? Are you not prepared to take responsibility?
And complex investigation. We are going to continue a very methodical and committed approach to ensure that if any other person had any involvement in these murders in any way, that person or persons will be held accountable.
That's after the arrest of Richard Allen. And by the way, some people believe there are potentially others involved, and there's some that believe Richard Allen's not involved.
That's me. I don't
And then,
think
of
he
course,
has nothing to do
prosecutors
with it.
believe he acted alone. So there were other people there that day, other people who saw things, which brings me to my next question, which is about the eyewitnesses. Did eyewitnesses see Richard Allen? You know that moment in a courtroom, right? Do you see the person you saw walking across the bridge in court today? Yes, I see them right there, sitting at counsel table, wearing the what is this, purple shirt. Still with me, Barbara McDonald and Bob Mata. Let's go through some of these witnesses. First one, and this is a witness who saw someone before the murders. This is Brianne Wilbur, who was, I believe, 16 at the time, saw the bridge guy at the trails walking with a purpose before Abby and Libby arrived. A man dressed in layers caught her attention because it was a warmer day. Man gave her weird vibes. Man was wearing a blue or black jacket. That's what we see there. Blue pants. That's what we see there. He was taller. Brianne was the height of his upper arm. Told law enforcement in 2020 the man she saw was in his 20s. Well, she's 16. I don't know how well she knows ages, but says he was in his 20s. Barbara McDonald, how does that match up?
Well, so far, nobody's been able to say that the person they saw was Richard Allen. And the question that you just asked, Vinny, about do you see the man in court today, that's not been asked of these witnesses. Another teen witness who was with Brianne Wilbur that day, Rayleigh Voorhees, she testified that the man she saw was taller than she is, and she's 5'7". And the defense attorney, Jennifer Auger, said, so perhaps 5'10"? And she said, yes.
Well, how tall is Richard Allen?
Is about 5'4" to 5'5".
He's short.
Bob Mata, what are your thoughts here? We'll put up another one of the witnesses here, which is Betsy Blair. Again, this is before the murder. Saw a man on the bridge. He looked like he was expecting someone or something. Said the man she saw was the man in the bridge guy image. Right there, there's bridge guy. That's the guy. Said he was in his 20s to his 50s, had brown poofy hair, and said the man looked young. I'm wondering if she's the one that gave the description of the sketch that looked like Justin Timberlake.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, okay.
She is.
There you go. Bob Mata, I mean, you've tried a lot of cases. Eyewitnesses in many of these cases, right, they'll point the finger, this is the person I saw. And then the sketch on the right is the Timberlake one I was talking about. What are your thoughts, Bob, about Brianne Wilbur and Betsy Blair?
It's exactly like you said. Eyewitness testimony is typically the most unreliable testimony you can get because every person, when they're in a moment like that, doesn't necessarily know, unless they're seeing a crime being perpetrated at the time, doesn't know they have to commit anything to memory, right? So you're just kind of looking at somebody, you might be like, hey, it looks a little off, but if you don't know that you need to remember what you're seeing, you're going to forget details. Because when Rayleigh Voorhees is testifying, she remembers the guy wearing all black sweatshirt or black jacket, black jeans, black boots. So like everybody's memory of this guy is completely different than the other ones. Now, Betsy Blair is she looks to be in her late 40s, somewhere around in that area. And she was obviously older than the girls that were all still in high school, and even younger out of that group of 4 with Rayleigh and Brianne, who were together with 2 of Rayleigh's sisters. They were all out there. And so we heard 2 of their witness accounts, and they were both very different, even to the extent where Rayleigh says that they see him. In my estimation, of my count, Barbara, it was 45 minutes later than what Brianne said, because she took the picture, which she did have a timestamp, which was put on Snap. And we know that that picture was taken about, I think it was 1:39, I think she said. It might have been 1:29 p.m. And where Rayleigh had them seeing him like after, like at 2:15, like right before they were getting to the Freedom Bridge. So there's a group that's together, but their time is way off as to when they saw them. So, I mean, there's just, it's problematic. It's problematic as to when they saw him.
And they're not saying that's the guy. Like in court, the guy sitting right there. Yeah.
No in-court IDs.
Nothing. One more witness I need to get to before we run out of time, Barbara. I'm so sorry. Sarah Carbaugh saw a man walking on 300N covered in mud and blood. Mud all over, blood spatter on the lower pants only. Man's demeanor was sketchy. His head was down, hands in his pockets. Tells police what she saw 3 weeks later. That's a problem. The other stuff sounds pretty good. Barbara, your thoughts about Sarah's testimony?
This was a witness I really wish that we had cameras in court for, because it would be interesting for the public to be able to see her testimony. She came off as very rehearsed, not necessarily rehearsed by the prosecution, but rehearsed perhaps on her own. She got very argumentative with the defense. They pointed out that she was interviewed 3 times by police. She never mentioned the blood in the first 2 interviews. She also didn't even call police until 3 weeks after she saw the man. She says she saw the man covered in mud and blood, goes home, learns Abby and Libby are missing, and then waits 3 weeks to call police because she was feeling anxiety and panicky about what she had seen. On cross-examination, a lot of her testimony really fell apart. She only mentioned the blood in the 3rd interview, but she didn't even mention the mud in that interview. She tried to say that perhaps the police officer didn't write down what she said, or that might have been part of the testimony or part of the recordings that were lost in the early days of the investigation. I think at the end, she perhaps wasn't as credible as the state had hoped she would be.
And she's important, seeing a man walking down 300N, which could be the killer. And if it's Richard Allen, walking back to his car.
All right.
Big thank you, Barbara McDonald.
Boom. So let me blow this back up. And basically, nobody was able to determine if any of those people were Richard Allen. And from what we hear from this, hold on, drop my mouse. That in the court, that you really can't even see the bridge guy in the video. He's really far away, and they had to enhance it. All right. So it's hard to determine who the bridge guy is, because the bridge guy looks like everybody. If I put my hoodie on and my head down and my hands like this, it's hard really to tell who it was. But if that guy was that far away, how did he cross that whole bridge in 43 seconds? Or was there somebody else on the other side of the bridge that was like girls down the hill? So it almost sounds like the bridge guy is just that, a bridge guy, and there's another guy at play. Now, it would make more sense if there was 2 people that did this together. And, you know, I learned one thing about this whole thing is there's a lot of young girls that are hanging out in the middle of nowhere. No wonder Jason Voorhees kills so many damn people. Okay, what's with all these young women hanging out in the middle of the woods? You know, I've walked through the woods many a time. I ain't never look over and see a young girl that's hanging out in the woods. It seems a little strange, right? But then again, I'm a little more living in the city than, you know, Delphi, Indiana. But apparently the bridge is the happening spot, right? I guess that's where they go to party. Let's go to the bridge, this death-defying ass, scary ass bridge that looks like you could fall off of it. Let's go hang out there. Okay. That just seems so strange to me. But Then again, I'm a city slicker. I don't, me, I go hang out in front of the convenience store like Jay and Silent Bob, but to be out in the middle of nowhere where, Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I've seen too many horror movies to be hanging out in the woods. Okay. So I'm going to open the phone lines now. And the topics are the three things we were talking about today: Karen Reed, Lori Vallow, and Richard Allen. If you could, please try to stay on topic. I don't want to hear about your grandma's apple pie recipe. Let's keep on topic today because we've been here for a while. Dolly.
Hey, Dolly.
Hey, Granny.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
I'm going to make it short.
Okay.
Karen Reed needs to go to jail.
I agree.
Lori Vallow needs the death penalty.
I agree on that one, too.
And poor old Richard Allen needs to go home.
I think he needs to be in a mental hospital, get some help, mental help. Because
they have done him so wrong. He is crazy as batshit.
Yeah, he crazy as batshit. I think you're right on all three things, Granny. I think they got a crazy person that has mental health problems that would probably confess to eating Jell-O if you told him he did it.
I guess if I was under those circumstances and they kept beating me, I'd tell them anything to get them to leave me alone.
Yeah, or maybe, they're like, you tell us what you did and we'll let you go home, and he was like, I did it. I shot the girls, and he don't even know how the girls were murdered.
He don't know. He don't know how they died.
Yeah, I mean, their throats were cut, and, they died from, what sounds like a box cutter. And he thinks, that he shot and killed them. I mean, he can't confess to a crime that it didn't happen like that.
I know. He did not do this. Bless his heart. They need to let that man go home. And then his wife needs to take care of him to another state and put him in a hospital and get him well.
And there's something sneaky about it because they won't even mention Keegan Kline, and he was the one communicating with the girls.
I know, and that's what I was saying in chat. Why are they being so secretive? What don't they want us to know?
I know. That seems so crazy. Like the whole trial is like got to be a mystery. Like it is so strange.
It makes no sense. And if you look at those two pictures that you had hung up, if you take that younger picture and just kind of lay it over top.
Hold on a second, Granny.
Okay.
Hey, Tiff. Okay, I'm back, Granny.
You send that baby some cash money.
He said, yeah, she said she hit me up with some gas money. She's like, I need some gas money. I'll get paid to Friday.
My granddaughter called me yesterday. Yeah. She was needing gas, but if you'll take that picture and kind of lay it over top of that other picture, kind of see through it, and they almost look like an old version of the same person and a younger version.
Yeah.
Could it be father and son?
Well, Keegan was hanging out with his daddy, right? His daddy, I think, has passed away, though. But at the time that Abby and Libby went missing, him and his daddy were staying together, hanging out together, going and partying with prostitutes in Vegas. So it could be a father and son that
those two pictures are very much alike to me. You get a PJ to look at them.
Okay.
If you lay it kind of over top of it and kind of look, it looks like a younger version of the older person that's on there.
And a lot of people think Keegan is too fat to be the bridge guy or anything like that right now, but Keegan was a lot thinner when this happened. You got to remember this happened 7 years ago, and Keegan over them 7 years gained a lot of weight. But at the time that the girls went, were unalived. If you look at pictures of Keegan, he was about that size.
Yeah. Didn't one person do this?
I don't think so.
I don't think they would have been capable of it.
I mean, maybe with the gun, but it's still a little questionable.
I'm going to fight.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to fight and flight and try to get away. You're going to have to shoot me.
Yeah, but you got to remember, these are little girls. These ain't grown women that, you know, maybe they thought everything was going to be okay. They just didn't realize that, you know, this dude is going to kill us. You know,
I hate it for them that it turned out this way.
Yes.
I really do. But they need to let Richard Allen go. He did not do this, Dolly.
I don't think so either. We're going to see. We'll see
That
soon.
man is getting the stick up his butt. That's just terrible.
Uh-huh.
I'm a-praying for him. We all need to. And just pray that they got the right one.
Okay.
If we do that, they'll let Richard Allen come home.
All right.
You watch Top Notch.
All right, Granny.
DJ, bye, Sickle.
All right, peace.
Bye.
Y'all guys give me 1 minute. Okay. Dolly.
Hey, Dolly.
Hey.
Wow, I got through.
You did
This
it.
is Wicked West.
Hey, Wicked.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm just not buying it. The prosecution is not coming up with.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time buying it too. Like, now, if he could connect Richard Allen to some of these other people, then I would say they all did it together. But
yeah,
just him doing it and he don't know how the crime was committed seems a little odd.
And not to mention, I mean, everybody's like, oh, I wouldn't false confess to something I didn't do. But this guy wasn't put in just the county. He was put in a prison.
Yeah.
And wasn't he like, he was he was segregated from everybody else. And that's, you know.
For 7 months.
I mean, you would be amazed at what things you would do. You know, you don't know what you would do until you're there, you know. And for people to say, oh, I wouldn't do that. You don't know. You haven't been in that position. So.
Yeah, you get locked in a box by yourself and you start talking to yourself and you start tripping out, especially if you already have mental health problems. You never know what you could say. But, you know, he never confessed to a crime where only the killer would have known. Like, if he would have said the girls were stabbed or they were cut, would be one.
Yeah, because he said shot at first, I believe, didn't he?
Yeah, he said that he shot the girls. And the girls weren't shot. The only thing, but there was an unspent bullet casing found at the scene, but it almost was planted.
And it just, I've never heard of an unspent bullet being able to be tracked to a certain gun. I haven't that before.
I haven't either. And they tried to bring in experts to say, hey, that you know, on his side, saying that they made a mistake on the unspent bullet, and they're denying they're experts. So they won't even get to hear the expert of the unspent bullet casing.
Yeah, that judge is trying to fire his lawyers. I mean,
at this point, I think the judge did it. Okay, the judge seems more guilty than
somebody.
I'm like, she won't step down. The lawyers, everybody tried to get the judge to step down and passed off to another judge. The judge wouldn't step down. The judge had to go to court to beat a judge. Like, it's a lot going on. She fired his lawyers. I've never heard of a judge firing somebody's lawyers before.
Never heard of that. And then didn't she want her buddy to be her lawyer?
Yeah, and then her buddy agreed with what Richard Allen was saying, and that was her friend.
I tell you, something's going wrong in Delphi. Something, and I may be the only one. I've heard a couple people say this too. You have to excuse me. I've been sick, so my voice is kind of raspy.
Uh-huh.
But the that state cop, the one that did all the went up there and talked and everything, does he not sound like Bridge Guy? I mean, he has that voice that I don't know. I haven't heard Richard Allen's voice
it's
yet.
like you go anywhere. You go south, everybody sounds country. You go north, everybody sounds the damn same too. They have that same accent, you know. So
yeah,
you know, if it happened in the south, it would have been a country sounding guy. It happens in the north, it sounds like the Bridge Guy. So it's like Boston. You go to Boston, everybody sounds like cocky. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's just how they learn how to talk. It's their cadence and stuff like that. I think it's really hard to tell and I'm pretty good with voices, and I haven't really sat around and listened to Richard Allen talk. And then, you know,
I haven't heard his voice, I don't think yet.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if I was guilty, I wouldn't say shit, because that's what people wait for you to talk, right? So they can say, see, he's the Bridge Guy. But if they're saying what they're saying is true on court TV, the Bridge Guy was far away when somebody said girls down the hill. Right? How did he cross that whole bridge in 43 seconds? They said he was way off in the distance, but just a couple seconds later, you hear girls down the hill. So that means whoever said that was coming up behind them and not in front of them.
That's true. Yeah, it's just this case makes less and less sense every day to report.
Maybe the Bridge Guy is no more than a witness that was crossing the bridge.
Exactly. That's true.
You know,
that's very true.
So he might not be the killer at all. He could actually be a witness that was in the proximity of the crime as it was happening and not realize it, because it looked like he was looking down.
Well, I'm really glad that the jurors are asking a lot of questions. Like they're allowed to ask questions after each witness or something, and they have a lot of questions. So that's been good to hear. So I hope that I just want, those girls deserve justice. And the right guy needs to be in prison. If he's not the right guy, then he's not the right guy, Yeah,
I want justice for them girls just as bad as anybody, but I don't want to see the wrong person go to prison for the rest of his life behind these girls. Especially somebody that has mental illness, that don't know no better.
Yeah. So I'd like to hear what kind of. I'm really anxious every time, to see how this is going to turn out. But I'll let you go. Let somebody else call in.
You be good. Peace.
All right. Peace.
So, like I said, that bridge is pretty long. The video ain't but 46 seconds. So that man crossed all the way over that bridge, got to where they were at, and were like girls down the hill that fast? Or did somebody come up behind them? Right? They were looking this way at this guy, and it allowed somebody to creep right up behind them and then be like down the hill. I don't know. That was PJ. She should, I missed your call, PJ. You have to try to call back. Okay. Plus we'll be talking about a little bit more about this tonight, because I know, usually me and PJ come on about 9:30, right? The Dolly and PJ show, or evening show. So I know she's going to want to touch in on this because she's been wanting to do some Delphi stuff for a while, but there's some other stuff we're going to talk. Dolly.
Hey, Dolly.
Hey.
What's up?
Nothing, man. What's going on? Did you want to tap in on?
Not much. Just watching your show. Yeah, I want to tap in on this. The Richard Allen dude has been in solitary probably.
Yes.
He's got mental illness. He'd probably admit to anything. You've been in there long enough. Plus, he's probably got some mental illness.
Yeah.
And when you walk across one of those bridges, you got to look at every single railroad tie. Because I grew up in Indiana, and I walked across a lot of those bridges as a little kid.
Yeah, I mean, you'll break your damn leg or your ankle. Your foot will go right between the slats.
Exactly. So the bridge guy had to be walking really slow, and if he's far away in the video and somebody says down the hill, there's got to be either Richard Allen doesn't have anything to do with it, and the guy that says down the hill, which isn't apparently on video, did it.
Yeah, or Richard Allen could be a witness and not know it. He's a witness because he's looking down at his feet so he don't step in none of the holes.
Right.
And that's a scary bridge because you go trip and stumble there, you might fall off the bridge. There's no rails.
That's right.
And you ain't running across that bridge. That's for damn sure.
We ran across bridges like that, but we were dumb kids.
Yeah, and I think kids have better footing than you do when you're adult.
Yeah.
Like I was nimble as hell as a kid. I'm more clumsy as an adult than I ever was as a kid.
We also had pellet gun fights shooting at each other too. So that was
it happens, you know. So if we take it that this guy that's walking is not the guy that said down the hill, then there's a person we haven't seen.
And what the hell is Keegan Klein being protected for?
I don't know. I mean, he's a monster. It seems like it would be so much easier to paint him as the killer than paint a guy that, you know, nobody's seen or any proof of. There's no DNA of his at the scene at all. Okay. The only thing they really have against him is his crazy ass saying what he said. And they say they have an unspent bullet casing that matches his.
The chain of evidence on that bullet casing was blown because they didn't handle it properly. And they didn't take pictures of it till way later after they took it out of the dirt and all that. You're supposed to take it in situ.
I think they're just trying to put it on somebody so they could solve this case.
Yeah.
You know,
and you know, I did some research, and there is some Odinistic bullshit going on in that town.
Oh, I know, but I mean that don't mean Odinism did it. But I'm just saying there is some of that. There is some of that going on for sure. Even the lawyers proved that. They said even that when he got the new lawyer, the lawyer said they're wearing patches, Odinism patches in the jail. Like you couldn't do that here. You know what I'm saying? You couldn't. No. You had to wear your uniform as it's state issued.
And to me, whoever lured the girls there has a part in the murders. Does that make sense?
Or he took them to some other people. I mean, it could have been, you know, a gun. One person with a gun can control a group of people.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a knife, you ain't controlling a group of people with a knife because somebody's going to run. Everybody's going to scramble different ways.
Why is the sicko Keegan Klein, who's into that kind of porn shit, luring the girls to the bridge and not go to the bridge himself?
Yeah, I know. I don't know.
It doesn't make no sense.
Complete no sense. I said the same thing. I was like, this makes no sense. He's the one that led him there. Why wouldn't he be there?
And then combine that with the secret trial, no cameras, and the judge firing the lawyer. I mean, the whole damn thing is whacked, in my opinion.
I agree. I 100% totally agree. Give me 1 second. I got to send my kid this money. All right, man. You be good.
Your kid money?
Yeah, she needs gas.
All right, be good, brother.
All right, peace.
Peace.
All right, so sent. That's the good thing about Cash App. It's quick. So PJ, if you're still out there, you can call in, or I'll see you in a few minutes when you get home. Yeah, a lot of things are not adding up. Karen Reed, guilty. Lori Daybell, Vallow Daybell, guilty as hell. She's gonna make a circus out of her court appearance. And of course, Richard Allen, I just had this feeling they're gonna try to railroad him into prison. Like they showed the video. You heard them on court TV say they only showed it once. Then they showed the enhanced version once. They had a hard time getting, you know, to hear from Keegan Klein, which, you know, of course, Keegan is going to be like, I didn't do it, right? Because he changes his story a lot too. He confessed in interrogation that he talked to Abby and Libby. Hold on. Damn, I had the phone lines closed. Okay, phone lines are back open. That he was the one talking to him. He admitted to it. And then, you know, he kind of acts like he didn't. So he keeps trying to change up his story a lot, right? But if you're a criminal, you're not going to confess to doing anything. You're going to make them have to prove it. Dolly.
Hi, Dolly.
Hey, Melanie.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Not too bad.
That's good.
Okay, did you want to talk about these cases, Melanie, or you just call me to say hello?
Well, about Lori, what's her name? Lori Bellevue.
Yeah, daybell. Lori Vallow. Let's go with Lori Vallow. It's easier. Lori Vallow. Okay, go ahead, Melanie.
I think she killed her kids.
Yeah, somebody killed him for sure. It was either her or Chad or her brother. One of those three killed him, but they were all in on it together.
Yeah, who killed her husband's first wife?
Yeah, I think they killed both of them. I think Lori killed her, had her husband killed, and I believe Chad killed his wife for sure.
Just to get married, right?
They got married 10 days later. No.
10 days later.
Yes.
Good grief.
Uh-huh.
Oh, have I told you to shout out a happy birthday to Nugget?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Melanie, you be good.
Hey, PJ, I love y'all.
We love you too, Melanie. Be good.
Okay, peace.
Dolly.
Hi, Dolly. This is Marianne from Pennsylvania. How are you?
Did you say Diane?
Marianne.
Marianne. Okay. Hey, Marianne. How you doing?
I've been watching like the reviews of different people that have been attending the trial, the different podcasts.
Uh-huh.
I think they need to try and prove that he did it. I'm conflicted on it because they haven't found any DNA evidence. The people, the testimonies of the people that saw him on the bridge are all over the place.
Yeah.
The girls were brutalized. And I don't understand. The one was naked and brutalized and more than the other. I don't understand the kind of crime it was. I don't think it had anything to do with the cult. So I'm kind of conflicted. I was curious.
I think it's somebody that just wanted to murder somebody because it don't look really like a sexual assault. I mean, other than the fact she's naked, but I believe that somebody took some pictures because the crime scene was staged. They were positioned. And why would you position people and put them sticks on top of them like they did? I think somebody may have snapped a picture of it.
Yeah, but what time? They can't, because they were saying they were calling the girls' names and nobody was answering. It was very sketchy on what time it really happens.
Yeah.
And
do you know most killers take a souvenir?
Yes.
Right. And that's what makes me think when he posed them that he did it for a reason. And that reason was to take a picture.
But you think the Kagan person, is that who you think it is? The Kagan?
Keegan Klein is who I generally believe is the killer. He's the one that led them girls there. He was the one that was conversating with them. He's a sicko that collects child pornography. And even after they were murdered, another girl was talking to Keegan. And when she got off the school bus, there was a man at her window with a black mask on. So this girl had no ties to Richard Allen, but everybody that had ties to Keegan Klein, something strange happened to. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. But can they replace him on the bridge?
That I don't know. That I can't know. But so many people have speculated that if it could be Keegan's father, it could be Keegan, because Keegan in the interview, they asked him, does anybody else have access to your phone? And he said his father did.
Right.
So, and then him and his father were hanging out together in Vegas for a little while, right? Picking up prostitutes. So it seems like him and his father had a weird relationship. And you ever heard that saying, sometimes the apple don't fall far from the tree. If one of them's a pedo, they might both be pedos.
Right. Last question. Do you think they were killed at that spot or were they moved?
I'm thinking they were killed and then moved to that spot because of lack of blood at the scene. You see what I'm saying? She had blood on her hands, but there wasn't a puddle of blood. I'm thinking they were killed near the creek and that's why Libby was drained of blood, because it flowed through the water. The water carried the blood.
One of them, though, had blood on their hands because they think that they were trying to stop
The bleeding. Yes.
Is that Libby?
Yes.
Yes.
So
I don't get it. I don't. It's very sad. I feel so bad for the parents. This is horrific, and I don't even know DNA. I don't know what kind of case they're putting up there.
yeah.
I don't.
So at some point, Libby got naked, right? And then Abby put her clothes on.
Right.
Or unless that was done post-mortem from the killer, and he's like a creepy dude like Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lamb, and he started staging the scene, putting the clothes on her. But I'm thinking she was forced to do it herself, and the picture, all the tree limbs were added after they were dead, and he did that to take a souvenir. I believe he took a picture.
But you think one person can take two children or two teens like that? You think it was one person?
With a gun, yes, easily. You could have took more.
They definitely know he had a gun because I didn't hear it when they keep replaying it.
This dude tried to rob me and my friends in New Jersey. I was in, I think, Perth Amboy, New Jersey, at a train station. And he was trying to get us to walk down these dead tracks where you cut this corner and nobody can see you. And there was like 6 or 7 of us. And he's like, come on, I'm going to show y'all to the train. Come on with us, right? And with me, right? And it was this one dude. And we were getting ready to follow him down. But when he got to the bottom of the steps, something just seemed creepy. And we just kind of stopped at the top of the steps. And I heard somebody screaming. And I look back, and it's a train conductor. And he's running, screaming, going, don't go down there. Don't go down there. And then this dude just takes off running, right? So he said that people get robbed down there. And I believe this guy was taking us down there to rob us. And it was like 6 or 7 of us. And he's,
wow.
But you got a gun and we don't. Once we would have stepped down them steps out of sight, he would have probably pulled a weapon, taken all our money, you know what I'm saying? And then it just took off. So, I mean, yeah, with a weapon, you can control a big group of people. You see people run up in banks with guns and everybody gets on the floor, right? So you can control a lot of people with a gun.
And I don't think they proved, unfortunately, I wish they did, but they didn't improve the bullet that was found under. They could say it was definitely from his charge.
I've never heard that. This is the first time I've ever heard an unspent bullet being used in a case. I've heard of, like, once the bullet's fired, ballistics, and this came from this gun, but experts are saying it's from his stuff, and then they got other experts that are saying that it's not. Then like, is it not? We don't know. It's one of those. It could be from any damn gun.
So it's building up to be reasonable doubt. Yes, and the last comment I promised was they should have never had him in a prison. I think that's part of what drove him crazy, because I don't think when he was arrested he was like that. He might have had issues, but they were tormenting and screaming they were going to kill him, and they had him in a prison. You saw how bad he looked when they were taking him down.
Yeah. But he stopped eating. He was eating damn newspaper and all kinds. Yeah. He was losing his mind for sure. But some people say he was purposely doing that. Like, if you want to make yourself crazy, you can make yourself crazy. Stop eating, stop sleeping, stop doing all that stuff, and you'll become crazy. But I think if you isolate, we know there's laws now put in place of how long you can put people in solitary confinement, because it will make you crazy.
He was in solitary confinement.
Yes.
I believe so, yeah.
For 7 months, and then he started confessing to everything.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for talking with me and talking this through, because it's so conflicting because of the girls.
Not a problem. You have a good one.
You too. Take care of yourself.
All right. Peace.
Bye.
So a little recap is, listen, don't stand behind no cars in Boston. All right. The world's and Richard Allen. That's my little recap. PJ.
PJ.
Hey.
No, I just wanted to chime in. They tested, well, I believe they had the expert in front of the court, and they tested the whole theory of how that weapon is the only weapon that would produce that marking on that casing.
Uh-huh.
And they could not reproduce it until they fired the weapon, and then allegedly they reproduced the same markings.
Yeah, but there wasn't a weapon fired in the Delphi.
Exactly.
Nobody heard a gunshot. So to reproduce that same marking on a gun, a bullet being ejected, fired is different than a bullet being cleared from your chamber of your gun.
That's exactly why it didn't fly. They didn't prove anything, in my opinion. So we're back at square one. They have nothing viable to pinpoint this man to this crime. There's no DNA. There's nothing taken from his house. There was a rumor that he had some of their clothing at his house. That was a rumor.
Yeah, that wasn't true. And they didn't find the clothes of the bridge guy either.
And I went to go look it up for certain to make sure, but Libby was 200 pounds. Abby was 100 pounds. Both were 5'4". There's no way you're telling me, even with a gun, that he was able to control both girls in a creek that they had to walk through. I'm sorry.
I could control 2 girls with a gun. I know I could.
So you're telling me while you're walking and your
fear
going to be possibly underwater?
Fear is
but all you gotta do is one of the girls just go under. And then what are you going to do?
The creek is not
after you
that creek ain't that big though. The creek's only 6 feet wide.
One of the witnesses on Court TV said that the high tide or something to do with the water and the time that it would have been possibly up to his neck.
Yeah, but you wouldn't cross at the deepest part of the creek. You would cross at the most shallow part of the creek.
Yeah. And a lot of the stuff that's being said and relayed as to what happened in this court case so far is, well, it could have been sexual assault. And that's why they were claiming that he was put into protective care, is due to the fact that any sexual crimes, he would have gotten killed in a regular jail.
And people are saying the creek's only inches deep, but what you don't realize, when you look at a creek, it looks shallow, but when you step into it, it's a lot deeper than it appears. Okay.
Right. I just know that a witness had said that at the time and the tide or whatever, that it was possible that he was almost up to his neck in the water, which doesn't make sense, because how do you keep your gun from getting wet?
Yeah, you can look at the water. If it's really clear water, it can look like it's 2 inches deep. Then when you step in it, it could be 4 feet deep. You know, so
I don't understand how they plan on pulling this off, and then the fact that it's so secretive.
But fear works.
Makes me
fear works a lot, because if you have a gun, you tell a little girl, "Hey, you run. I'm going to shoot your friend." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then they just listen and thinking, okay, you know, you're trying to, instinct is you're going to try to survive. You're going to try to remain calm and do what, you know. If somebody has a gun on you, you do what they tell you. If somebody ran in here right now to rob me with a gun and pointed a gun at me and said, "Empty your pockets," I'm going to empty my damn pockets, because there's nothing I got worth my life. Now, if I knew somebody was coming in and they wasn't coming in to rob me, then I'm fighting. You know, I'm going to fight for my life, because at this point, if you ain't here to rob me, you're here to kill me. You know, so then you fight. But maybe these little girls didn't know, and they're kids, so you know their mind. So
dang well that it was me and you and one person about our height came up and did that you would damn sure trip me, run the other way. The person in the middle would freaking not have.
You're right. I definitely would trip you.
I know you would.
Or hide behind you. I don't know. One or the other. I'd be like, "Get him, PJ."
So then if you know he's this certain size, they're a set size, and then he's this car alarm. Sorry.
Okay.
No, but it's like. I don't believe, no matter, like, he had to have been a bodybuilder to maneuver both girls and get away with what he supposedly did by himself. I'm sorry, I don't think it's possible.
Maybe, I don't know. I wasn't there. But hey, PJ, I'll see you in a few minutes.
Bye.
All right, peace. All right, so, I mean, you know, she don't think you could use fear. Fear, like, you see one person control a whole bank. Okay, I'm going to close the phone line, guys, because I'm getting ready to get out of here because PJ's on her way home. All right, so we will be back tonight, and PJ will have plenty of time to talk about this stuff with you guys. We're going to be going over the Delphi stuff, some other things tonight, so make sure y'all tune in. Don't miss it. Good times last night, guys. We had a lot of good laughs. Yeah, I mean, it could be more than one person involved. or it could be just one person and this person had a weapon. Now, if I got a gun on your friend and you really care about your friend, are you going to run and leave your friend if somebody's telling you, hey, you run off, I'm going to shoot your friend? And just do what I tell you and I won't hurt you. You don't know what he's saying. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times, you know, this sounds bad, but people go along with their rapist, okay, because they don't want to get killed. It's better just to do what they tell you. Maybe they won't kill you, and then, you know, take off, and then, you know, of course, you call the police and report the sexual assault type stuff. But sometimes if you go against the assailant, they're going to kill you, right? And maybe that's the case. So look, guys, tell me what you think about the 3 topics that we discussed here today. I'm going to get ready to get out of here. You guys have a good and safe afternoon. I will see you guys tonight, me and PJ, around 9:30ish, maybe 10 o'clock the latest. We don't usually stream if it's, you know, around that time, 9 and 10 o'clock. And we'll have a bunch of cool true crime stuff to talk to you about. We may tap back in on this because I know PJ's been wanting to talk about it. But until then, I'll see you guys later. Peace.